This meeting of the Essex County Board of Chosen Freeholders is hereby called to order due to the COVID outbreak and to be in compliance with the governor's executive order. This meeting is being conducted remotely. The public is able to view this meeting via a live stream on YouTube. A link for the live stream is posted on the Freeholder website, which is www.ecfnj.com. To all participating in the meeting, please be mindful to put your microphone on mute before speaking. Additionally, please identify yourself by putting your name on the record each time before you speak. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Freeholder Cooper.
Here.
Freeholder Graham.
Here.
Freeholder Johnson, absent. Freeholder Luciano.
Here.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Pomares.
Here.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Here.
Freeholder Siebel.
Here.
Freeholder Gill.
Here. Okay, we will omit a salute to the flag since we are conducting the meeting remotely. We want to have a moment of silence, both for all those that we have lost due to COVID-19 and the pandemic here in Essex County. We also want to especially recognize, in particular, which was not due to COVID-19, but we are all saddened by the sudden news of the passing of one of our state senators, Ron Wright, his wife, Shirley, and we extend our condolences to the senator and his entire family. Could now ask that we all please pause for a moment of silence. Okay, thank you. I have before me the certification from the clerk that this meeting is in compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act. Madam Clerk, are there any transcripts to be approved?
Mr. President, there are none.
Okay. Madam Clerk, are there any topics of discussion?
Yes, Mr. President. We have a presentation from Dr. Peterson, Superintendent of the Essex County Schools of Technology, to discuss plans for the reopening of the schools.
Great, thank you, Madam Clerk. I see that we have Dr. Peterson on the line and thought that this would be a great opportunity for him to both brief the freeholders and members of the public, in particular about what the county's process for our schools of technology and our vocational schools, what our process is and how we're thinking about and trying to navigate, just like every other school district in the state, the issues that are before us in September. So with that, Dr. Peterson, thank you for taking the time, and I'm going to turn the floor over to you. And when you're done, freeholders, if you have additional questions or comments and time allows for Dr. Peterson's schedule, we'll take some questions.
Thank you, President and Vice President and freeholders. Thank you so much for allowing me to come in and to share what we're doing. Anytime I have an opportunity to talk about our schools and what we're doing, I'm more than willing, and actually I am thankful because I'm very proud. We have a great team here, and this was, as always, this is a collaborative process. So if I can, just for the benefit of the audience who may or may not know, we have 3 high schools, Payne Tech, Newark Tech, and West Caldwell Tech. And we have approximately 2,300 students in all 3 of our schools, about 1,300 at Payne Tech, about 750 at Newark Tech, and 300 at West Caldwell Tech. What we did, we have had a reopening committee made up of teachers and administrators meeting since school ended. And we learned a lot from the last year, from the rapid transition to remote learning that occurred in March. And what we've done is took all of the information and all of the lessons learned there, feedback from students, feedback from parents, from surveys, as well as the input from the administrators to develop a plan that we think is the best for our students and the most flexible and accommodating for our parents. And I want to thank the county health inspector, Maya Lordo, who went through each of the buildings with us, along with my three principals, Ms. Morales, who is here, right here for a different presentation, Mr. Love at Payne Tech, and Ms. Robinson at West Colwell Tech. And we went through each of the buildings to make sure that we came up with something that is reasonable, that is flexible, and that will help our students receive the quality education that they deserve. So what we did was this. What we're going to have happen at the two of our schools is the students will be on a rotating basis, meeting 1 day a week in person, and they will be doing 4 days of remote. Now, we have the flexibility so that our parents at any time can choose whether they want to send their child allow the child to be instructed remotely or in that rotation. The only change that we made was West Colwell Tech, because the school is so small, and as you may or may not know, or the audience may not know, is we're in the transition right now. Our West Colwell Tech campus is in Bloomfield, the old Bloomfield Tech. We have about 300 students at West Colwell Tech. That building at one point, Bloomfield Tech, could accommodate about 500 students. So we felt, because we also have a specialized population there that would benefit from a little bit more contact time, and because we have the space, we're doing 50% there. So pretty much what it looks like is, it looks like a AB schedule. Will have a diminished day, so it's not exactly a half day, it's a little bit more than that. Kids will go from 8 to 1:30, and we will limit the times that they're changing classes. We'll make sure that there's social distancing, making sure that we have the students wearing masks, and we will get their students into those classes so that they have at least some contact time if they wish to come physically into the school. And that overall is the general picture. So the students will be seeing their teachers on a rotating cycle. So it'll be an AB day, but 25% of that population from each grade level will be attending school. Let me give you an example. So if there are 20 students in an English 1 class, only 5 of those students will be physically in that class, while the teachers are simultaneously Zooming or remote learning to those 15 other students at home. The next time that class occurs, there'll be a different 5 students, and the other 15 will be home. I'm just giving you those examples of 25%. The parents, as I said, will have the option of whether they're going to be remote or allow their child to come physically in. We felt that there's a need to do that because, especially for our career technical classes, education classes, it's very hard and challenging to have remote learning for classes like cosmetology, for welding, even some of the robotics. These are a lot of our CTEs are very hands-on classes and instruction. So that's why we felt that trying to get them in there and moving around is the most important thing. We are also taking some other safety precautions. Students will not be able to use their lockers to limit that. We won't, as per the governor, we will not be allowed to use the gym lockers. So therefore, phys ed's going to look a little different. We're going to allow them to walk around, even though they're teenagers, but our goal is not to get them to where they would need to go change their clothes. So it's really more about moving around. If I could say this, for at least the last 250 years, America has had the same basic schedule in place. 2.5 centuries, right? So this is the first time that it has stopped. And I know it's going to take a little time to get it going, but we feel that this is the best and the safest way we can get our teachers and our students back into some kind of normal. President, that's my 5-cent version. If you want me to go to 10 cents, I could do that as well. But I figured this would be a good place to stop.
So I see the document on the screen. Is there anything in the document that this document's provided, I believe, to the freeholders. Is there anything in the document that you want to address or highlight?
The students are there by cohort. I mean, it's all in there. I just gave a brief overview, but it's all there for as far as cohorts, so that this way we will work with the county health inspector, so that with Maya, so that this way, heaven forbid, but if there is a student or a faculty member, will follow the right steps. But also that means that with contact tracing, we can limit just that cohort of students and cohort of teachers who has been that we suspect, so that this way the rest of the school continues. There are a couple other things I just got off of a parent meeting. We had 300 parents for a Q&A session. We sent out a Q&A, and I think the freeholders got a copy of that as well. And we just try to cover as much as possible. We realize some of the challenges. We have sending districts who have their own transportation. So they're adhering to the certain guidelines that are in there, whether that means that there's plexiglass in the buses, which we really don't control because the sending districts would do that. But we've also shared with the parents our concerns about public transportation, making sure that they, maintain and observe all this health and safety precautions that are there. We're also going to be providing our students with 2 cloth masks so that they have that, and we have their own logos in there. We have made sure we've worked with our facilities director to ensure that the facilities are cleaned on an hourly basis. We're restricting the number of students into restrooms. Every Wednesday, we're going to do what is called a deep cleaning, which is with a fogger or a mister, which once again does everything it can to decrease all of the spread of virus. And we'll go through each of the classrooms. The students all have their own individual Chromebooks, so the need to share computers is eliminated. I think that about it.
Mr. President, I have a question.
Sure. Please.
Dr. Peterson, is this plan for the full year or only until January?
So here's how we developed it. We developed this, we wanted to do is get together a plan that is so flexible that if we were given the green light October 1st, we could have everybody come back and it looks the same way. So that means that we don't have to redo the schedules again. We don't have to reassign students. But if we needed to, we could also, in the unfortunate circumstance where we were told everyone has to go remote, we could also do that and have that same schedule. And Freeholder Seabold, if I could just elaborate just a little bit further. When we first went to remote instruction in March, we tried to follow the same bell schedule that we had before. And we realized that didn't work. 45 minutes was not, or 43 minutes was not working. So what we've developed now is something which is, we went from physical learning to rapid remote instruction last year. What we're doing now is we have enhanced our online learning platform, so that what we're doing now is we're doing almost like remote learning with physical drop-ins 25% of the time. But when the time comes that we could go either full days, or we could increase it from 25% to 50% to 75%, our plan allows that we could do that with great ease. Yes, it can be the whole year.
Okay, but if the vaccine is developed and in January things look much better, could you, before the year is over, go back to your regular schedule?
This schedule works enough so that we would use this even in January if 100% of the students came back. The only difference is now everyone's there.
And you would stop the remote learning.
Correct. And instead of going to 1:30, we would be going back to our normal 3 o'clock time.
Okay, so you would return to a more normal schedule.
Correct. And if we needed to do it in increments, we could as well.
Okay, very good. That answers my question. Thank you.
Dr. Peterson, what's the latest on the plan for outside activities, athletics, other clubs, things like those parts of the academic experience?
So we, right now, it's kind of still up in the air. I mean, and if reading the tea leaves as far as what's happening at colleges, I think there's a good chance that sports could be delayed until January, and we would have a condensed fall season, a condensed winter season, and spring season. That's what a lot of indicators point to. We have just posted for our coaching positions for September, but it's all tentative because there are a lot of restrictions right now for the no contact practices. So we're poised right now to still look and see, but I have a feeling that it could be delayed until January.
And students who opt into a all virtual or online format, will they be broken out differently? What does the instruction look like in that scenario?
Yeah, so it's going to look the same. So let's say you and I are in that same English class, but you decide to be totally remote and work from home. We still have the same assignments, the same entire curriculum, and the program that we're using, which is Schoology, allows for that. So that this way, you're going to still have to do the same amount of assignments. The only difference is you're not going to have that once a week physical contact time with the teacher, or at least being there. Now, using that same scenario, if I show up that day to school and I'm part of the 25% that's there, you would be at home virtually there in that classroom receiving that same instruction with the teacher.
I have another question. Dr. Peterson, does every student have a computer?
I have that question, Freeholder, and I keep reminding that I know you're a teacher. I may actually have to get you to be one of our, maybe do some of the remote learning too for us. So if you keep reminding me about that, we would love to have you. The answer is yes.
They all have something.
Yes, they all do. Here's the other thing that occurred though. We have probed deeper. We had everybody up and running last year, when I say last school year, but as we probed a little deeper, we found as far as internet connectivity, we knew everybody had a device. We also had a great tech team and a great tech director who allowed for kids to drop off an item that would need to be repaired. We also have a remote desktop tech help, which actually the technician from his home would actually go into the student's computer and fix certain things that need to be fixed. So, but what we did find out though is that students were doing the assignments, but a lot of them were using their cell phones as hotspots. Right. And so that's about 10 to 15% of our students, as we did a follow-up survey, we found out that we're using their phones as hotspots. Now, as you know, if you got a whole bunch of other people using it or the video conferencing doesn't work. So we have already purchased some devices that would allow for their own little hotspots that we would provide, the district would provide. Yes, I'm sorry.
And do all the students have access to the internet?
And that would make sure that those who are using their phones as hotspots would now have access to the internet. One other thing that occurred too is that, and once again, this is my tech director, Scott, who we have what is called a virtual desktop. So some of you will know that Chromebooks are limited in the amount of memory that they have. But when you have a virtual desktop, instead of, in the old days, if you wanted to put Microsoft Word on every computer, you had to download it or you had to clone each computer. When you have a virtual desktop, it could actually be pushed from the tech department. So when we have like certain CTEs like engineering that uses
this conference will now be recorded.
That have a lot of memory, and this way it could be pushed using that virtual desktop, which could have almost unlimited memory.
Freeholder Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to compliment the superintendent on putting together a wonderful plan. It seems to be very comprehensive, and it provides an opportunity for students to get the in-person interaction, but also to still learn from home. I hope more people are listening to the kind of plan that you put together, because it seems to be one of the most comprehensive that I've heard about so far. So the attachment that we have here, is that explained in detail what you just gave us an overview?
Correct. We will also provide you with the official one that goes to the State Department of Education as well, which asks for, committee names and everything like that. So that this way you have the full picture of everything that that the district has provided.
Freeholder,
Thank you,
additional
Freeholder,
questions or comments?
Compliment.
Additional questions or comments, freeholders? Would 100% agree with Freeholder Cooper. Thank you for the work. We're with you and here to support you in any way that we can. As you approach on something that has not been changed, and as you noted, in over 200 years. So in terms of this process, so the issues are immense, and we know that you and your administrators and our educators are on the front lines, and we want to be here as a resource for you, and we're in this together. So please do not hesitate to reach out to anyone here if we can be of any assistance and any help as we navigate this process.
Thank you very much for for all of your support that you've done in the past, and that you will do for us in the future. And thank you for just being there for us and our students.
Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, let's move to the public comment session. Today's meeting is a combined conference board meeting, and we will vote on every item on the agenda. Since we're meeting remotely, the public has had the opportunity to submit questions and comments for consideration. At this portion of the meeting, the clerk will read questions on agenda items only into the record at this time and state the name of the constituents.
Okay. The first comment was submitted by Katie Singer of Millburn, New Jersey, on Resolution 58 to the board. I want to commend the sponsors of the resolution for 58 for calling an end to the private institutions, ones that only imprison but don't focus on rehabilitation. Of the wording that could be much stronger, but it's a start. Clearly, it's a shift in thinking or more public communication of some of the freeholders' thinking about incarceration. Transparency is what makes the constituents believe in their political leaders. To that end, I repeat my question of last month when I asked for details on the planning surrounding the end of ICE contract by Essex County. The letter I received simply notes an ongoing process and working towards a contingency plan that is not informative. While the details of the meetings may not be public for particular reasons, I believe that we have the right to know if actual meetings or correspondence have taken place regarding the end of this contract. So I ask again, what steps have been taken in the last 2 months towards the dissolution of this heinous agreement? Next comment was submitted by Whitney Strub of Newark on Resolution 58. Dear freeholders, I support your resolution to eliminate prisons in New Jersey. No one should profit from incarceration, and a company like Core Civic, a leading private prison company that does also run the Elizabeth Detention Center, is a monstrous and immoral organization, even by the standards of a capital exploitation. Yet you surely must recognize that the contradictions of the condemning private prisoners, even as you help Joe DiVincenzo fund Essex County through the immigrant detention. It is hard to see how one of these systems can be deemed unjust and the other acceptable. While you call private prisoners labor a billion-dollar market, Trump's ICE detention machine and Obama's before that has brought you over $100 million in the past decade and helped build the capacity for ICE cruel and racist terrorism against our immigrant neighbors. I ask you again to end your collaboration in this unjust system, which dehumanizes not only detainees, but also yourselves. And at your last meeting, I asked about Kamaru, who was allegedly sexually assaulted on your watch, and Essex County Correctional Facility sent to University Hospital with pain and anal bleeding, and then deported to Ghana without an investigation. I asked whether Black Lives Matters included his life and whether any of you made any effort to follow up on his claims. Based on the tepid response I received from President Gill that offered zero examples of efforts undertaken, I'm left to conclude that no freeholder undertook a single action to help Mr. Kamaru. Since then, at least 2 people have died on your watch in the facility in 2020, and we still know nothing about that. So I ask, how did those deaths occur? What have you done about those? In closing, a member of the Democratic Socialists, as a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, I support the elimination of all private prisons, along with all immigrant detention and the closing of all jails and prisons. For too long, the racism and class warfare of mass incarceration and inference like border security have devastated our communities. If 2020 has shown us anything, it is that we need bigger and bolder ideas. This is a good start. Now match your rhetoric with your action in your ICE contract. The next comment was submitted by Mary Rizzo of Newark, New Jersey on Resolution 58. My name is Mary Rizzo and I'm a resident of Newark. I'm in support of the resolution supporting the elimination of private prisons in New Jersey and appreciate the freeholders taking this stand. However, I'm confused by what seems to be hypocrisy with the freeholders passing this resolution while running an ICE jail. Private prisons are seen as detrimental because they incentivize imprisoning people to increase revenue for a private corporation. Yet Essex County imprisons people to increase its revenue, perhaps particularly on the ICE side of the facility. This is not substantially different. As you know, Essex County has made tens of millions of dollars annually from this contract with ICE alone. Secondly, many of the people held in the county for ICE have no criminal convictions. They're simply being held due to their immigration status, even if they took the appropriate steps when they arrived at our borders of asking for asylum. How is it moral, ethical for our county to profit for this? How is a private prison worse? We need the end of ICE, all of ICE detention, and for you to stop calling immigrant detainees criminals to help justify their detention. We need you to stop caging immigrants for county revenue, and we need to close all jails and prisons too. The next comment was submitted by Ellen Witt of Highland Park, New Jersey on Resolution 58. I'm happy to see Resolution 58 regarding private prisoners on your agenda. In line with this resolution, will Essex County end its contract with Geo Group to hold people at Delaney Hall? The next comment, Carl Schwartz of Newark, New Jersey on Resolution 58. While Resolution 58 is correct in describing the problem of private prisons, I believe it is a meaningless symbolic gesture to appease the growing movement to close the Essex County ICE Detention Center, a government-run prison with atrocities, conditions, and unconstitutional practices that bring millions of dollars to the county every year. It is easy to condemn private prisons, which the Freeholder Board has no control over. It is much harder to condemn publicly run immigrant prisons in one's own backyard. Until Essex County breaks its contract with ICE, it is hard to take any resolution seriously, especially as the COVID pandemic continues to ravage the country. It is more urgent than ever that we release our immigrant brothers and sisters before a second wave in New Jersey could bring even more devastation. For the sake of humanity, Essex County must end its relationship with ICE. The next comment was submitted by Jennifer Arroyo. No address given on Resolution 26. I don't approve Resolution 26. Please vote no. Thank you. This comment was also submitted by Cecilia Francis. The next comment was submitted by Jake Efros. No address given on Resolution 58. Dear Essex County Freeholders Board of Freeholders, I'm writing you to express my support for Resolution 58 and its call to abolish private prisons in New Jersey. As we work for prison abolition, regardless of public or private status, it is certainly an important step. My question today regards the method you're using to put weight behind this resolution. That is that copies of this resolution be transmitted officially to our governor, Senate Leader Sweeney, and members of the Essex County delegation. I commend the board direct message to New Jersey officials to demand private prisons abolition. But was this the same method used for the previous resolutions regarding ICE in our state? We know that Governor Murphy has the power to sign an executive order to free folks detained by ICE. Will you not immediately send resolutions demanding this to Murphy and those who can pressure him from the halls of the New Jersey legislation? Will you publicly demand that Essex County DiVincenzo and his chief of staff, Phil Elijah, put their names and clout behind those resolutions to further pressure the politicians in Trenton? Thank you for making sure that Resolution 58 is voted on. Please put the same weight behind county resolutions to free ICE detainees that you intend to put behind this resolution to abolish private prisons. Sincerely, Jay Efros. The next comment was submitted by Catherine O'Leary of Pax Christi, New Jersey, on Resolution 58. Dear Essex County Freeholders, my comments are in reference to Resolution 58 regarding the elimination of the use of for-profit prisons in New Jersey. I will start as I usually do. There will be no justice until the end of the contract with ICE, until all immigrant detainees are free, and until you stop seeing people in your custody as units from which revenue is derived rather than as children of God. This opening statement is relevant to your resolution because while Essex County does not qualify as a private for-profit prison, it certainly does generate revenue from the incarceration of people, whether they be in ICE custody or in the general population at the jail. So while I commend you for another small step forward in recognizing injustice in New Jersey in general, it is important to inform you that you are still pointing out the specks in your neighbor's eye while ignoring the beam in your own. Essex County has a long-held practice of using the facility neighboring the Essex County Jail as overflow. Prior to bail reform, it moved pre-adjudicated prisoners into Delaney Hall, then operated by CEC, in order to free up bed space that could be rented out to the federal government, whether it be through the Marshals Program or through the IGSA with ICE. In 2009, Derek West Harris was one of those people. He was murdered by another man who was also transferred from the jail. Despite this and many other failings by the for-profit company CEC that ran Delaney Hall, it was seen as a lucrative business opportunity to include CEC in the RFP to ICE to expand immigration detention in Essex County. Several of the current members of the board voted in favor of that contract to expand detention despite a questionable bid package and the revelation of the thousands of dollars being funneled in the campaign contributions to Essex County Democrats and the Essex County Democratic Party by the same for-profit company. Further shocking revelations about CEC's lack of concern for the well-being of the people in its custody in 2011 by the New York Times series Unlocked did not change anyone's mind on this board about contracting with this company. CEC was bought out by the infamous prison company giant GEO in 2017. While no ICE detainees are incarcerated in Delaney Hall any longer, Essex County and several other New Jersey counties contract with GEO and other for-profit for various services. I hope that this is just not another symbolic resolution, so I ask the following. Will the Freeholder Board investigate and publish a list of all contracts that Essex County maintains with GEO and any other for-profit prisons company? Will the Freeholder Board investigate and publish a list of all contracts that Essex maintains with any prison service subcontractor, whether it be for commissary or telephone, residential, or outpatient rehab monitoring? Will the Freeholder Board commit to a committee to study how to end all of these contracts and stop generating revenue from incarcerated people? Will the Freeholder Board commit to a timeline to end the ICE contract? I look forward to your response. The next comment was submitted by Yael Weber of Montclair on Resolution 58. I was pleasantly surprised to hear of your progressive stance on eliminating private prisons in New Jersey. The resolution is commendable if it is followed by concrete steps to end Essex County contract with ICE and close the detention center at ECCF, where the county profits handsomely from holding immigrants in cages in violation of the Constitution. There could be no justice in Essex County as long as we collaborate with ICE regime of terror. In the middle of a deadly global pandemic, we are holding immigrants in atrocious conditions for no reason other than financial profit. What actions will you take this week to bring us closer to ending this contract? If you believe the statements made in this resolution and hope for others to act in closing private prisons, how can you possibly not break the ICE contract in the contract now? The next comment is the final comment for this portion of the public comment section. And this comes from Jeffrey Feld, Esquire of Short Hills on resolutions 53, 54, 55, and 57. Dear Essex County Board of Chosen Freeholders, I respectfully request that this letter be included in the August 5th, 2020 virtual meeting, public agenda comments, official public record. I also respectfully request that this letter be included in the August 5th, 2020 virtual meeting, non-agenda new business, public comments, official public record. This letter incorporates all my letters to the freeholders, including last July 2020 letter that I received no written response. I heard the voice of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on an old radio. He was talking about the philosophy and discipline of nonviolence. He said we were all complicit when we are tolerating injustice. He said it is not enough to say we will get better by and by. He said each of us have a moral obligation to stand up, speak out. When you see something that is not right, you must say something. You must do something. Democracy is not a state, it is an act. Each generation must do its part to help build what we call the beloved community, a nation and a world and a society piece at itself. Ordinary people with extraordinary vision can redeem the soul of America by getting in what I call good trouble, necessary trouble. Voting and participating in the democratic process are key. The vote is the most powerful non-violent change agent you have in democracy, in a democratic society. You must use it because it is not guaranteed you can lose it. Honorable John Lewis, op-ed, Together You Can Redeem the Soul of Our Nation, the New York Times, op-ed, July 30th, 2020. This watchdog function has tangible benefits for subscribers and non-subscribers alike when local reporting waned. Sullivan writes, municipal borrowing costs went up, local news outlets provide the due diligence and the bondholders often count on. Without a specter of the public shaming, corruption is freer to flourish. Jennifer Zuli, Book of the Times, Another Endangered Species, The Consequences of Local Papers Closing Nationwide, the New York Times, July 20, 2020, when hearings are held in prison, whether on the legislative or local level, on the public say, often a number of people would show up and make it plain that the elected officials and their actions would be remembered on election day. But when the same hearings is held on an internet platform like Zoom, the moderator can simply tune out dissident voices. Paul Mulshine, op-ed, Ghost Town will come back to haunt legislator, the Sunday Star Ledger, August 2nd, 2020. The legal landscape has shifted. I'm no stranger to you. This is a very fluid situation. My comments and questions should not be dismissed out of hand. This county legislative body cannot ignore its statutory and common law fiduciary duties and obligations. This county legislative governing body must consider all intervening changes in significant facts or statutory regulations or judicial law that favors my factual and legal contentions. Since your last meeting, Since your last regular July 2020 virtual meeting, we lost civil rights giants who repeatedly risked their lives speaking truth to power and ensuring the fundamental right to vote for free and fair elections. For months, I've been urging this county legislative body to investigate whether the May 2020 vote by mail municipal elections were in fact free and fair. See an editorial, voting by mail could save lives. The Sunday New York Times, August 2nd, 2020. Jamel Bowie op-ed, John Lewis was the anti-Trump. The Sunday New York Times, August 2nd, 2020. Jesse McKinley, lag in tallying mail-in ballots, rises alarms. New York City is still deciding June races. The New York Times front page, August 3rd, 2020. Today, we lack the robust independent investigative reporting. Patent errors and omissions undermine the integrity of our constitutional democratic systems and our robust marketplace of competing ideas. We must cure and remedy the May 2020 municipal and July 7, 2020 primary vote by mail election, anti-democratic errors and omissions. We cannot rely upon the federal criminal law system curing these anti-democratic errors and omissions. Since your last regular July 8th, 2020 virtual meeting, our state legislator enacted legislation changing the name of county freeholders to county commissioners. This enactment is merely a symbolic linguistic deflection act. History matters. Originally elected county freeholders exercise both executive and legislative powers and functions during the progressive era. County freeholders shifted day-to-day county executive and administrative duties and powers to an unelected county administrator. Approximately 45 years ago, county executive duties in our largest and most populated counties were shifted to an elected county executive with legislative oversight duties and responsibilities vested in the elected county freeholders, county commissioners. For months, I have been demanding this county legislative body to exercise its legislative oversight powers and to investigate the adequacy of the mandatory long-term tax exemption disclosures contained in the county annual audits and whether the county was in fact receiving all long-term tax exemption revenues due under the state law. Wednesday, July 8, 2020 was a game-changing day. While I was appearing before the local finance board, the New Jersey U.S. Attorney announced the low-hanging fruit indictment of Willis Edwards, Orange former purported deputy business administrator. Indicted in a certain Montclair City planner and implicated USA versus Ellis Edward. Consequently, all transactions approved or recommended under this watch by Ellis III and his Montclair City planner are subject to strict scrutiny. Indeed, on July 8th, Orange BA outside budget consultant made a series of admissions and interest validating any factual allegations. On July 8th, 2020, the local board admonished Orange to the importance of transparency and the public participation during emergency virtual hearings. On or about July 31st, 2020, local finance boards posted its July 8th, 2020 hearing transcript on the public website. On July 20th, 2020, the NJHMFA introduces Norman Towers, NJHMFA, long-term tax exemption, denial of reconsideration per firm opinion, therefore commencing a 45-day direct appeals, a limitation of actions. The opinion did not cite the blighted area clause of our state constitution. The opinion did not cite 3 recent binding and precedential tax exemption property opinions. The opinion did not cite conflicting DCA urban renewal entity rules and regulations. The opinion did not cite the internal shift of urban renewal entity oversight jurisdiction. The opinion did not cite the federal subpoena received by the NJHMFA in February 2020. To perfect my appeal, I've requested abbreviated transcripts of the May 25th, 2020, July 1st, 2020 hearings. On or about August 3rd, 2020, the NJHMA posted its May 25th, 2020 and July 1st, 2020 regular meeting minutes on the public website. The NJHMFA did not post its July 1st, 2020 closed executive session minute on the website. On July 20th, Judge Kevin McNulty held a bizarre virtual federal Willis the Edwards third arrangement hearing. Numerous stakeholders, including myself, requested and obtained virtual access to this public arrangement hearing on July 29, 2020. Judge McNulty and the U.S. Attorney was sent by very loud messages to Mr. Willis, his co-conspirators. His court-appointed counsel, first Judge McNulty, broadly outlined the courts as including on Saturday morning the literacy program conspiracy and a plagiarism scheme. Judge McNulty had requested the U.S. Attorney to outline the maximum number of jail time and fines allowed to each count. Mr. Willis arrogantly objected to turning over to the U.S. Marshals his passport, his firearm. Mr. Willis' court-appointed counsel tried to downplay the seriousness of this indictment. Court-appointed counsel tried to describe the indictment as a plain white-collar political corruption matter and not a violent criminal matter. Judge McNulty overruled both objections. Judge McNulty implied that all indicted individuals are of flight risk. The U.S. Attorney also pointed out the great stress imposed by this indictment upon Mr. Willis. Under Mr. Willis and Mayor Warren, Chief of Staff Watch Orange approved by a resolution a long-term below market lease of its reservoir to the county. On information and belief, Mr. Willis did not disclose his employment by Essex County Community College. This county legislative body cannot feign ignorance of these issues and facts. The county legislative body had actual constructive knowledge of these festering issues. In addition, the county legislative body had actual constructive notice of intervening post-July 2020 state Supreme Court appellate division, binding, persuasive tax exemption, statutory interpretation of qualified immunity, stealth taxpayer subsidies, conflict of interest, administrative hearing records, and tort claims act opinions concurring with my legal analysis. This county legislative body may wish to consider this with counsel. This post July 8th, 2020 state case law. This county legislative body may also wish to consider with counsel certain post July 8th, 2020 Third Circuit statutory interpretation, freedom of speech, retaliatory actions, public nuisance standing, gross income, repetitive issues of public importance, mutinous opinions. The county legislative body may also wish to consider the local finance board posted July 1st, 2020 hearing transcript. In sum, talk is cheap, real action is required. We must follow John Lewis's lead. We must speak truth to power. We must have a healthy skepticism of power. We must fact check. We must seek enhanced transparency, accountability, and adherence to the rule of law. We must defend the rights and liberties of all
This conference is no longer being recorded.
Regardless of the consequences to long-term political and economic self-interest. Should you require additional information and supporting documentation, please feel free to contact me. Respectfully yours, Jeffrey S. Fell. That concludes the public comment.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Madam Clerk, do we please ensure that the information is relayed to the administration for appropriate response on any questions? Madam Clerk, do we have any ordinances or resolutions for introduction and first reading?
Mr. President, we do.
Okay, please read ordinance 1 into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Good evening, good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board. This is a bond ordinance providing for improvements to the Newark Tech campus. And Mr. Abaleo, Mr. Rubino, and I believe Principal Morales are all here to address your concerns and questions and present this exciting project.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jerry Rubino. I'm the principal firm of the Rubino Architects. With me this afternoon is our senior associate and the project manager for the Essex County Schools of Technology, Rodney Watkins. And before we do the presentation, I just wanted to take an opportunity to thank the freeholders, the county executive, and the Essex County Schools of Technology and the relationship that we've had with everybody over the last 7-8 years. As you know, we have completed the design and construction of the Donald N. Payne School of Technology. The next project that we're given and proud to have been working on are the addition to the West Caldwell campus. And anybody who drives along Passaic Avenue has seen the progress of that facility, and it is scheduled to be completed at the end of October. As indicated, the next project at the school wants to address, or school district would like to address, is improvements and expansion of Newark Tech. If we go to the next slide, Lionel. What we have before you is the proposed site plan of the facility. Just to give you an orientation, north on this slide is to your left. West Market is on the south or the right of the slide. Across from the building is the Hall of Records. To the west, which is the bottom part of the slide, is Wycliffe Street. To the top of the slide, or east, is Essex County College. And to the north is the view to NJIT. That kind of gives you where we are with this. The proposed plan, as Rodney will take you through, is to add approximately 16,500 square feet of new space. On the ground floor, those are indicated in those blue blocks. And the main part of this addition is going to be up above the first floor, but what we do is that we do have an entrance in the north side of the building that currently right now is a small parking lot and has access to automotive shops in between that the blue, just below the blue block. If we go to the next slide, and I'm gonna have Rodney take over at this point. Right where the cursor is now is the main entrance to the building. Rodney,
Okay. This slide is basically showing color-coded areas of the scope of work that we have to do in the facility. The area to the right, where the words are Teal Center, Guidance, Main Office Lobby, and Robotics, those are spaces that was done during the Teal Center addition and renovation. So those areas we are not going to be performing any work with as part of this project. The areas with the yellowish color are basically the corridors. And in those corridor areas, we're providing a new ceiling, lights, new corridor lockers, wall paint finishes, and floor finishes. Particularly on this floor, we're going to get terrazzo flooring that's going to match the flooring that was done during the Teal Center. So it all reads one terrazzo floor. The areas in the blue are areas where we're doing new ceiling and lights, in addition to the full HVAC upgrade that the existing building is being done to the existing building. The orange areas are the alteration and renovation spaces. If you look at the lower middle portion of the plan, you'll see carpentry. That space is existing and it's going to be fully renovated, fully gutted. Brand new mechanical, new ceiling and lights, new dust collection system. We're also going to be providing a new delivery entrance that's directly off of Wycliffe, that they can bring their wood supplies directly into that side entrance. The area up on the top right is currently a nurse's suite. Right now, there's a need for increased teal support area. So we're going to convert that space into new toilets, new offices, and a conference room to support that space. The existing nurse's suite that's located in that area will be relocated to the area to the left of that, between the health, yoga, and receiving spaces. So that's going to become the new location for the new nurse suite. It's going to have its own ADA compliant bathroom, area for cots, office, and exam area. The green area is the new addition. As Jerry mentioned, there's a separate entrance off of that current parking lot area that you can go into, secured entrance. You can go into the other two spaces above the media center and the cafeteria if the school is having any nighttime activities. They don't have to go through the building to get to it. And also on the lower left is the existing gym. Again, we're not doing anything in that space because that space is recently done.
Mind if we go to the next slide?
On this slide, this is the second floor, and again, you can see the areas of the corridor with that light beige color, where we're going to be providing new ceiling and lights, new corridor lockers. The floor finish on this floor will be vinyl enhanced tile, and this work is also occurring on all the other second and third and fourth floors as well. The blue areas, again, is new ceiling and lights, all the classroom, business classrooms, the certified nursing, all those areas will be getting a new ceiling and light.
As well as HVAC.
As well as HVAC. The area in the orange, if you look to the right, there's 3 classrooms. Currently, there are 2 classrooms, and we're converting those into 3. There was a big need for increased classroom space. So what we did in this area was basically add an additional classroom. There's a room up top that's to the right of the ESL classroom. Again, that's 1 room, we're turning that into 2 classrooms. And if you can see in the middle of the plan, we're converting the existing media centers and turning that into additional classrooms, and also creating changing rooms for the welding lab that's located to the left. The area on the bottom, you see there's creating 2 new physics labs. It's currently 1 physics lab, and we're creating 2 out of this same space.
Hold on, is there someone who has a question? Okay, sorry.
To the lower right, we're taking office space, converting that into additional educational spaces, turning it into a small group instruction. And there are currently bathrooms in that location, and we're renovating those to provide a new ADA toilet for that floor. The area in the green to the top left is the media center addition that we are doing. So you can see in the middle where we're taking the old media center and putting it into the new addition to the top left. Doing that also creates additional classroom space for the school.
It should be noted that anyone who's been in the building, the existing media center is dramatically undersized and really doesn't conform to 21st century learning. The new space is going to be more of a learning center and a resource center, so that you can see there's different type of activities, different seating areas, the ability to have small groups pull out and do special projects. Anybody who has walk-through pain could understand that concept. What we're doing is we brought it on a smaller scale to West Caldwell because the number of students are significantly less, but it's the same model, the same concept that we want to bring here to Newark Tech.
Next slide, please. Okay, again, same concept in the corridor spaces, the light beige, new ceiling, lights, lockers, floor finished, wall finished, and also goes into the staircase the same way. The light blue areas again, new ceiling and lights, new HVAC. The areas in the orange, if you look at the lower right, there's an existing teacher's lounge. Again, we're going to upgrade the existing toilet, make it an ADA compliant toilet, and renovate that entire area and turn it into a new teacher's lounge. The area on the lower left, it says new teal support area. Again, this is the Teal Center 2 support area for the Teal Center located on the first floor. The area directly above that is the existing kitchen area and existing cafeteria. What we're going to do is totally gut and renovate the existing kitchen, create to the left where the existing cafeteria space is, turn it into a new faculty lounge, and create a new serving area for the kids to get their food and go to the left in the green, their new addition, new cafeteria located in the new addition. That's
Next floor,
next floor.
is straightforward.
Yeah, next floor is next floor.
This is the existing fourth floor.
Next floor, please. And again, same work in the corridor spaces, the blue areas, ceiling and lights, new HVAC. To the lower right in the orange is a new renovated small group construction area, again with a renovated ADA toilet. And in the middle is a mechanical room that has all the mechanical equipment for the existing portion of the school. That's all totally getting gutted out and renovated, so the school will have a new HVAC system. Electrical upgrade will be throughout the building. New PA, new building automated control system to control all the new control equipment and the existing that was done previously.
It should be pointed out, doing the new heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system. Number one, we're going to have a system that's more energy efficient. The amount of equipment that we're going to be needing because of the efficiencies are going to be much smaller. And so we're able to free up a lot of floor area for the school so that one of the dire needs that they have is additional storage requirements. So we're going to be able to free up a lot of that floor space for that storage capability. And as part of that, we're going to be renovating the freight elevator, which is located, if you look at the top left, just below the science room. There's an orange box that's X'd out. That freight elevator will be totally renovated and modernized. And if we want to see, just to give you a sense of what the building will look like on the next slide. What we did, if you notice in the floor plans, we've had a glass curtain wall for the outside of the addition. I think it's a symbol of the transparency and opening up the views to the north. We chose that curve. If we could go to the next slide, to complement and to respect the curve that was done on the gym. And what you can see now is this building that kind of floats above the ground. To the lower right, those are existing garage doors for the automotive shops. So we have to be very careful when we place the new columns to make sure that vehicles can still access those areas. And if we go to the next slide, this gives you a head-on view looking from the south. And the next couple of slides will show you some of the interior views. This is the media center, which is on the second floor. This is as you're in the room looking to the east. So through that glass curtain wall, you'll have a view of downtown Newark. And the buildings that you see beyond the facade, those are the buildings that are NJIT, if I'm correct.
Yes.
And again, as we said, it's a different type of media. It's not your old library. There are a lot of activities that occur, the ability to have large group instruction, students being able to break down into smaller groups, having pull-out areas, and that's all reflected in the renderings. And it gives you the ability to have anywhere from 24 to 60 students at any one time in the media center. We wanted to bring that same feeling up to the cafeteria to be able to accommodate. If we go to the next slide.
Next slide, please.
We're looking at trying to accommodate 300 kids at any one time. As Dr. Peterson indicated, there is currently 700. I know the school does lunch on a grade level, so 4 periods. I mean, you could consolidate that. But more importantly is if you're using it for lunch for 4 periods a day, this space is now available for another 4 or 5 periods a day for instructional use, for students to come in and do research when they have downtime. The ability to bring maybe 3 or 4 classrooms in at any one time and work on a project together. Again, it's going to be an open space. It's going to be infused with technology and internet connection. And I think that's the last one. No, there's 2 more. Oh, 2 more, I'm sorry. This is again, the cafeteria looking from the northeast, as Rodney indicated before. You go into the kitchen is going to be opened up. Again, a more efficient layout, trying to get anywhere from 250 to 300 kids in and out in less than 40 minutes.
I'm sorry, I have to hold you up for a minute. I'm trying to do a head count. 1, 2, 3. I only see 4 freeholders up here. Unless I'm missing something on active cameras.
Michael, I'm here. I just had to shut my camera off for a second, but I'll come back on.
Okay, thank you.
I'm here as well. I just shut the camera off. I was eating something. Didn't want you to see me.
Thank you. Just checking. Sorry about that, please.
Next slide, please.
So again, you can see that what we're doing is different type of seating, various type of seatings, the ability to collaborate together. So it's just more than a place to eat. It's really a place where you're going to learn, research, collaborate, where students can really achieve. And again, you can see that view looking to the north.
That's great.
As you may know, the project has received approval from the New Jersey Department of Education, both on the preliminary and final eligible costs. So the state has approved, the State Department of Ed has approved the project to move forward. Any questions that anybody has at this time?
Great. Mr. Palavecchio.
I don't have any comments. Thank you.
Mr. McInerney. Mr. McInerney.
Mr. President,
you.
I have no comments, sorry.
No problem. Freeholders, questions or comments?
Yes, I have some comments, Mr. President.
Field the Siebold.
Hold on 1 second. On Wednesday, July 22nd, we had a Board of School Estimate meeting, and Freeholder Bobby Mercado was there with me, and this entire process was introduced to us at the meeting, and everyone was very, very excited about it. And the ultimate results will be that we will only have 3 buildings, one in West Caldwell, the Payne School, and the Newark Tech campus, and those 3 schools will handle all of our students. And I just want to tell you something in terms of history that's really important. I was on the Essex County Vocational School Board when one of the schools was on the corner of Sussex Avenue and First Street, and I'm sure you pass it all the time. And the Newark Tech campus was built for older adults, or adults, I should say, and it was only in use late in the day and in the evening. And all day long, the building was vacant. And we decided, because the building on Sussex Avenue was not in good shape, to move all the students over to this Newark Tech campus. And as the years went on, the school was missing so much. They were using the gym at the Essex County College because there was no gym for the school, so a new gym was built. And through the years, as technology has grown, the school became more and more outdated. So everyone was very, very happy that this was going to occur and the school was going to be brought up to date to this century. And you all saw what was going to be done. And we reviewed it at the Board of School Estimate meeting, and we were very excited to approve this project. So I'm hoping that we can go forward with it. And in case you're interested, while they're working on it, the students will be moved to the Bloomfield Tech School while it's being done. The students from West Caldwell are at that school now while West Caldwell is being finished. Then they will move back. The Newark Tech kids will go there, and then as soon as this is finished, they will be moved back, and then we'll be done with the Bloomfield Tech permanently. So this is a very, very exciting prospect, and the architects have done a wonderful, wonderful job planning this, and I'm looking forward to seeing it complete. And Dr. Peterson, I know you'll be happy with the outcome.
Vice President Richardson.
Yeah, it's a beautiful layout. I like the design of it, and the utility of it is going to be amazing. My question is, we have students in the technical field who are training to be carpenters, plumbers, electricians, those types of things. Is that correct, Dr. Peterson?
That is correct, Vice President.
So I certainly hope they get an opportunity to get some hands-on at this this center where they can work on and hone some of their skills alongside the building trade professionals or professionals at their school. It'll be a real gift to them, and so they can see how things actually work in the real world, as opposed to just a theory and classroom practice. I know we started talking about this, and I look forward to continuing those conversations, but it'd be a tragedy if our kids who we're training and they're going to school, our tech schools for 3 to 4, at least 3 years, or some 4 years, don't get an opportunity to actually work on a project where they're going to be housed. I certainly look forward to moving those conversations along.
We look forward to inviting, I'm sorry, Mr. President, may I speak? May I say something?
Sure.
Yeah, we look forward to inviting you when everything comes normal again to see some of the projects and partner. It really is, we've already established a good reputation, but my goal is that when in working with people like yourself and all other community members, that when someone sees an application that says Essex Tech, that they already go, that's quality. That's quality. That's what I want it to happen across all of our trades. And while I have just the moment, I just want to say thank you to the freeholders for, once again, their support, the county executive who believes, like I do, like we all do, that we have the best students, they deserve the best facilities. And this is, this just completes the circle so that all of our students in all 3 of our buildings will have the best. And I just want to say thank you, and our kids appreciate it. And if, Mr. President, if you don't mind, if you have an opportunity to let Ms. Morales just say a word, if it's okay with you. She has an interesting story.
Sure, please.
Thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to speak this evening. On behalf of the 750 students at North Tech, students and families, we definitely thank you.
I'm sorry, Ms. Morales. I don't know if it's just me. In my view, you're upside down.
No.
There you go. Keep.
Better?
One more time. One more time. There you go.
Better? Okay.
Thank you.
No
Thanks.
problem. And you can hear me fine?
Yes, thank you.
So again, thank you so much for allowing me to speak this evening. On behalf of the 750 students and families of North Tech, we really do thank, not only our county executive, but the freeholders, our board of education, as well as superintendent for spearheading this new renovation project with North Tech. The story that I think Dr. Peterson wants me to share is that, I am a graduate of North Tech, and I graduated back in 1995. I sat on the Board of Education several years ago, as well as being the vice principal and now the principal of North Tech. So I am a proud Terrier, #Terrier for life. And when I attended North Tech, like Freeholder Siebold said, that building was built for adult learners. It wasn't built for student learners. So we didn't have a gym. We didn't have labs. So we didn't do the typical biology or chemistry labs that typical high school students would have. We didn't have that at the time that I was a student. So in the rain and the snow, we had to walk down to Essex County College and have our gym classes there. So being on the board when the gym was built, I was very proud at the time to see how beautiful that facility was. And now coming full circle and seeing what the end product is going to be for North Tech, I couldn't be any prouder. And not only because I am a Terrier, but because I am also part of the team that's going to see this vision through. So again, thank you so much for allowing me to be here and speak on behalf of all our Terriers. We are so proud, we are so happy, and we cannot wait to go to this new home. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Well said. Thank you so much. Field, additional questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. President, I would just
Yes.
like to add one more remark. Dr. Peterson, weren't we told that those coming in as freshmen to the Newark Tech next year will go to the Payne building instead, not to Bloomfield, and only 3 classes will go to Bloomfield? Is that correct?
That's the tentative plan, so that this way we can accommodate everyone, because as we had stated before, the old Bloomfield Tech really can only house about, at its max, is about 500 students. So we want to make sure everyone is comfortable. And at this point now, since this will be our second move, we've become a little bit familiar and experienced with how to move around students and buildings. And so we'll put that to use.
And how long will it take to complete the building of Newark Tech?
Mr. Rubino, you have, I want
Plan.
to put
The plan right now is to go out to bid at the end of the year, receive bids early in 21. Construction will start in September of 21, and the school will be ready for September of 23.
So it won't start until a year from this September?
Correct. That's the plan right now.
So nothing changes for next year?
That's correct.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Just
Thanks
a
a
lot
lot.
of planning.
I understand, and thank you, Ms. Morales, for everything that you do.
Mr. President, it's Freeholder Cooper.
Fielder.
Thank you. Question. So the plan that you are presenting, it's a combination of building a portion of a new building. Did I hear it right? 16,500 square feet. Is it going to be the same number of stories as the existing building, or was it just 2 stories?
It's 2 stories. Elevated, well, it's 3 stories altogether. There's the first floor, which has the entrance. The second floor will be the media center. The third floor is the cafeteria, and because of the ceiling heights, that'll go a little bit higher than the existing third. So the existing building in that rear elevation is 4 stories high. We're going to be about 3.5 stories high.
And then my next question is, so is there portions of the building that will not be rehabilitated?
No, the entire building will receive a new heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system. The entire building is getting new ceiling and lights. And then there are certain areas where we're doing total renovations to meet the educational program.
All right, and the areas that you highlighted are the ones that's going to be rehab outside of the lights, ceilings, and HVAC system that you're installing.
That's correct.
Did I get that right?
Correct.
So these renovations that you're making, will it enable you to service more kids at this location?
No, that is not the intent for that. It's actually just to improve the facilities that we have right now. And Freeholder, if I could, I think a student said it better than I did. When Ms. Morales and I were talking to some of the students, I believe it was almost 2 years ago, Ms. Morales, maybe it was only last year. We said, what do you like about the school? What do you don't like about the school? They said, the front of the building is great. In the Teal Center, it's like 2019. But when you go down the hallway, it's like 1975. Even though 1975 was a good year, but that was what a student, remember, Ms. Morales, that's what actually a student said to us. So that gives us just a student's perspective.
What will the annual debt service be?
Anthony Abolish, I'll speak to that. This is a debt service project, so the state is expected to pick up about 90% of it, but maximum, including state share and county share, should not exceed $3 million a year.
I'm sorry, I didn't. The last part you kind of faded out.
Okay, the debt service, including the state share and the county share, should not exceed $3 million a year, with the state picking up approximately 90% of that.
Oh, okay, with the state. So the reference in one of the pages of the attachments that you gave us, where it asks if there's a local share amount, would that be the 10% that you're referencing right now?
Yes.
Yes, okay. All right. And that 10% that we would be responsible for is spread out over the life of the bonds?
Yes, it's expected to be 25-year bonds, and it'll be the 10% over the 25 years. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Freeholder, does any additional questions or comments? Okay, thanks, Freeholder. Again, thank you to the entire team that took the time to be with us today at the meeting, and definitely looking forward to seeing this project come to completion. It's going to be another, absolutely another facility that we can all be very proud of. So thank you to everyone who is taking the time to make that happen. Freeholders, I have a motion from Freeholder Cooper and a second from Freeholder Graham to introduce Ordinance 1. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper,
Yes.
Freeholder Graham,
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson, absent Freeholder Luciano.
Put his thumb up.
That's a yes from Freeholder Luciano. Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Pomaro.
Yes. Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Mr. President, if I could jump in, I did hear Freeholder Luciano say yes. I know he was garbled, but I did hear his voice say yes.
Okay, Madam Clerk, do we have any ordinances or resolutions for listing purposes only?
Mr. President, we have none.
Okay, Madam Clerk, do we have any ordinances or resolutions on second reading and public hearing this afternoon?
Mr. President, we have none.
Okay, Madam Clerk, we'll now move to resolutions 1 through 24, which are advice and consent appointments to the Workforce Development Board. We will move to resolutions 1 through 5, which are appointments, and read them into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
I apologize. As I was saying, we have 24 nominations for appointment to the Workforce Development Board. 5 of them are new appointments, and the balance are reappointments. All the appointments are here to address the board. The first being Jacqueline Larea, and I'm going to ask her to come on and address the Freeholder Board.
Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much to the entire Essex County Board of Chosen Freeholders for inviting me to this session today. I am absolutely thrilled to be nominated for your Workforce Development Board. My name is Jackie Larea. I'm the president of Alexina Consulting, LLC. I specialize in customized employee engagement and development programs, specifically diversity, equity, and inclusion, business communications, leadership, supervisory, and managerial skills. And to date, I have converted a lot of my training to virtual versus in person. So I've been in the Workforce Development Board world for probably in excess of 15 years, and I look forward to hopefully joining you all and doing some very, very important and needed work in Essex County. Thank you.
Should I just go through all 5 and then come back, Mr. President, or?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
Our next nominee is Alice M. Frazier.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome and thank you for the opportunity and the nominee. I don't know where really to begin, other than that I work at the Urban League as the VP of Workforce Development and Vocational Skills Training. I've actually been in the field over 25 years in very diversified roles, from program design and development to educational and vocational skills development training programs, case management, business development. I think there's not too many things I haven't done. I hold a bachelor's in human services, a master's in business administration. I am a member of a multitude of various boards that support economic development and help to ultimately develop the skills of our workforce. I look forward to the opportunity, if granted the opportunity, and I'm happy to be here today. And I guess I'm trying to keep this a little short. So I do apologize if I'm talking a little bit fast, but thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Frazier. The next nominee is Bhavna Taylor.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Bhavna Taylor. I'm the Vice President of Essex College. I currently serve on the Newark Workforce Investment Board as the Business and Economic Development Board Chair. The relationship between Essex County Workforce Development Board and myself has been a long-term relationship, and I look forward to working more with the county and the Workforce Development Board just in terms of economic development with businesses. I mean, obviously right now are very different times, and I think that it's really important that the Workforce Development Board is strong and able to serve the people of Essex. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Next is Sandra Bleckman.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Sandra Bleckman. I am most recently have been with Landmark Hospitality as the Vice President of Foundation Development and Relations, working with students and put together a curriculum overseeing the nonprofit for culinary and hospitality training. But prior to that, I was working based out of Fairleigh Dickinson University, overseeing the Retail, Hospitality, and Tourism Talent Network and Talent Development Center. And that's where I first began working and collaborating with the Essex County Workforce Development Board. For the last about 6 years, I've sat on the Essex County Disability Issues Committee. So I am very familiar with Workforce Development Board world, and I appreciate the nomination, and I look forward to hopefully continuing to serve with the Workforce Development Board. And I sit on a various number of VOTEC and community college advisory boards as well. And I thank you again for the nomination.
Thank you. And finally, Amy Vazquez.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to be here on the line with all of you today and for your consideration for this appointment. I'm Amy Vazquez, the Director of Legal Content for the Employers Association of New Jersey. EANJ is a nonprofit membership organization comprised of employers located throughout New Jersey, and our mission is to help good employers be better. And we do this in a number of ways, primarily through training and outreach, educational programs. We conduct surveys, and we have informed discussions with our members. I've personally been with EANJ for just shy of 21 years. We are a relatively small group, and because of that, we all do tend to wear many hats, but my primary focus is helping to make sure our employer members are informed and up to date with the latest employment law mandates so that they're able to achieve compliance within their own workplaces. And I look forward to working with the board and helping to meet the needs of New Jersey employers.
Thank you very much. Those are our 5 appointments, Mr. President. Do you want to consider them separately or with all the 19 others?
No, why don't we, are there any, see if there's any questions from the board on what I'm going to say is resolution 1 through 5, or our new members.
Mr. President, may I say something?
Freeholder Siebel.
We have 5 wonderful people who have put themselves forward to be placed on this board. They all have excellent resumes, and they are going to be a welcome addition. And I know so many of the people we're going to reappoint, and it's an outstanding board, and I'm so pleased that we have such terrific people who are willing to spend their time working for the constituents here in Essex County. Thank you.
Thank you. Freeholder, additional questions or comments?
Freeholder President.
Freeholder Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to echo Freeholder Siebold's comments. I too want to commend and thank the members who have stepped up to serve on this wonderful board. It's a essential board, essential service, and I appreciate their time and commitment. Thank you.
Thank you. Agree with my colleagues. Thank you for raising your hand to serve on this critical board and giving your time to the County of Essex. We can't thank you enough. Freeholders, I have a motion from Freeholder Siebold and a second from Freeholder Cooper. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebold.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Luciano. Freeholder Johnson, absent. Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. We're going to move to resolutions number 6 through 24, Mr. Jackson, which are all reappointments to the Workforce Development Board. We can read them into the record at a later time. Any further comments, Mr. Jackson?
No, other than we're thrilled that these individuals are agreed to come back on the board and looking for more and better contributions in the future.
Great, thank you. Freeholders, additional questions or comments? Seeing or hearing none, I have a motion from Freeholder Cooper and a second from Freeholder Graham. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson, absent. Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebold.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano. Counselor, I believe that's a yes. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's move to resolutions 25 and 26, which are the consent to the issuance and sale of a charter school revenue bond by the ECIA. We can read them into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you indicated, these two items are related and connected. To address each one, we have Steve Rother, who's the Executive Director of the ECIA, Bernard Davis, who's the Bond Counsel for the ECIA, and Jennifer Silvio, who's the CFO of the North Star Academy schools.
Steve Rother, thank you, Mr. Jackson and President Gill. We have presented these two matters already to the State Local Finance Board and have been approved by the state. This is, for the most part, the refinancing of costs incurred for the construction of existing facilities by commercial lenders. We now have the opportunity through a conduit, meaning we have no risk at all associated with the lending. We have the opportunity to refinance that debt at a much, much lower interest rate. And since we are serving the needs of children in the city of Newark, we are very eager to do this. Thank you.
Hi, this is Bernard Davis. We're bond counsel to the authority. I'm with the firm of Chiesa, Shahinian, and John Tomasi. And to echo what Mr. Rother said, I'd just like to indicate that these facilities have been in place now for several years. The Hazelwood and Broad Street facilities, which I believe are the subject of Resolution 25, have been in service for approximately 6 years. The bond for these facilities also includes an additional $5 million for substantial upgrades to heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems, plumbing, and the reutilization of unused space for additional classrooms, which will help to spread out students during this period of time. The Washington Street facility, which is the subject of Resolution 26, was a stick-built 6-story facility on Washington Street in Newark near the old Star Ledger Plaza. And that school currently houses grades K to 5 and 9 to 12. Grades 6 to 8 will be filled from within the school as 5th graders go to 6th grade and so on. And the 9 to 12 will be filled from other middle schools without their system. The bonds will be supported by lease payments made by the North Star Academy, which has currently a network of 14 schools serving more than 5,800 students in the city of Newark. Thank you for your consideration of these resolutions.
Mr. Carlovecchio.
Yeah, Mr. President, just one thing. I don't know if we touched on the amounts. In item number 25, that's regarding 2 different facilities. One is Broad Street, one is Hazelwood Avenue. That would be bonds in a principal amount not to exceed $42 million. Again, what the board is being asked to do is provide consent, not a guarantee, which is something the board has been asked to do on other bond issuances, but not on this one for the ECIA. ECIA is authorized by law to provide loans for this use. But I just wanted to make that distinction. 25, I think, as Mr. Davis said, the bulk of this would be go to refinancing existing debt, and the remainder would be to complete renovations. Item 26, one facility, Washington Street project. The aggregate principal amount would be to not exceed $40 million, again, for a similar purpose of refinancing existing debt. That's all I have on this. I'm sure Mr. Mack needs something.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Carlovecchio. Mr. McInerney.
Thank you, Mr. President, and to the ECIA, to Mr. Davis, everything you said is correct. This is a conduit financing. There is no liability to the county with regard to whether or not these bonds get paid back or they don't get paid back. It's a revenue bond, so if the revenues are sufficient, they'll get paid back. If they're not, they won't. It's also true that they were approved by local finance board. But in my 30 years here, they still come back to the Board of Freeholders. And I feel that there's a certain amount of due diligence, or at least overview, that the board has in reviewing these transactions. And I asked for a copy of the financial statements, and that's no different than I've done in the past. If you recall, some time ago, we did $100 million Covanta conduit financing, and I did the same level of review. I have, and was provided by the organization, is a June 30th, 2019 financial statement. And that June 30th, 2019 financial statement is obviously, it's a year old now. But when you look at it, I want to explain, and there might, I'm glad we have the CFO here, and I very much appreciate that they're in attendance on such short notice. But what we have here is a situation where we have what's called negative working capital of over $54 million. That's to say that at June 30th, 2019, the current assets of this consolidated organization was roughly $70 million. Current assets are those resources that an organization will realize within 12 months. On the other hand, you have current liabilities. And conversely, those are the expenditures that an organization can estimate that it will expend over the next 12 months. And the idea is that there should be some level of consistency between current assets that have to pay off the current liabilities, what comes in a year versus what has to go out in a year. Well, that's a negative number. That's $54 million difference. The assets, the current assets are $54 million less than the current liabilities. Now, there might be parts of this financing that are going to go to helping aid in reducing that negative working capital, but that's something maybe the CFO can get into. The other issue that concerned me with regard to the financial statement was a footnote that's at the very end of the footnotes on page 35. And I'm going to read this only because it may be able to be explained, but to me, it just reads something that I want you to be aware of. It says liquidity and availability of financial assets. It says the organization is substantially supported by contribution with donor restrictions. Because a donor's restriction requires resources to be used in a particular manner or in a future period, the organization must maintain sufficient resources to meet those responsibilities to its donors. Now, the first part of that just means that if I give you $1 and I say you have to spend it on that dollar on something specific that the donor has required you to spend it on, you have to make sure that's where those funds go. And so those become restricted funds. They're not necessarily available for operating expenditures. Portions of them may be, but typically they're not available for operating expenditures unless the donor agrees to it. The second part of that note says, thus, financial assets may not be available for general expenditures within 1 year. The financial assets may not be available for general expenditures within 1 year. The financial resources available to the organization at June 30th, 2019 represent approximately 8 months of operating expenses, less depreciation and donated space, which are non-cash items. It goes on to say, again, I need an explanation for that, because the way I'm reading that is that there's not the financial resources available to the organization at June 30th, 2019 represents approximately 8 months of operating expenses. And in my mind, unless I'm missing something here, I understand these are schools, but there's still 12 months in any fiscal year. So does that mean that the financial resources are short of meeting that goal of 12 months worth of operating expenses? The last part of the paragraph reads, as part of the organization's liquidity management, the organization has a policy to structure its financial assets to be available as its general expenditures, liabilities, and other obligations become due, which means there seems to be some sort of plan. Although they don't have the money to cover them as of June 30th, 19, there is some sort of plan in order to make sure that those expenditures are funded. So those are two items I have. Again, the financial position of the company with regard to negative working capital and how this debt might help, and some explanation of that last footnote in the financial statements. And thirdly, what is the June 20? I know the audit wouldn't be ready now, it's too soon, but at least if the CFO could give us some idea of what the financial position and results of operation are, at least if not to June, not to the end of June, but at least close to the end of June. So that's what I had. It's nothing against this deal, but again, in performing due diligence, as I've done in the past, I have these questions. So I'll open it back up to those who are here to represent, if that's okay with you, Mr. President.
Yeah. Mr. President, Steve Rother, can I ask Frank one question before the CFO responds? And that question is, since this is a conduit financing and there's absolutely no liability to the ECIA or the county, why are you concerned about it?
Because it has the name, Essex County's name is on this. Why does it have to come before the Board of Freeholders?
No, the county's name is not on this bond issue, not at all.
Well, I mean, in the sense that why does it have to come to the Board of Freeholders?
Because statutorily, go ahead.
Yeah, the Improvement Authority law, Section 13, requires that actions on a project by a county improvement authority have to be approved by the freeholder board.
For what purpose, if not to review the transaction? I can't believe that it's done just on a rubber stamp.
Well, I don't believe it has to do with the depth of the finances of the borrower. It's in concert with the objectives of the county, and this is, for educational purposes.
Yeah, and that's the position, Steve Rother again, that's the position that the local finance board takes as well. The local finance board, which has to review what we do and approve us, are not concerned about that when this is a conduit financing.
And the bonds are going to be underwritten by Stifel Nicolaus, which is a national underwriting firm. And prior to the bonds issuance, we'll receive an updated rating letter from S&P. The current rating for North Star Academy is BBB minus, and Stifel Nicolaus will update all their due diligence as well prior to going out to sell the bonds.
No, I fully understand that. And, you might think I'm taking this to a different level and so, but at the end of the day, when something comes before the board and I look at it and I see something that, to me, all I'm doing is asking a question. And, we certainly aren't looking to get involved in any, whether it's conduit financing or not, in situations where it's represented, the financial statements, that revenues are not sufficient enough to cover expenditures. So, I don't care whether we don't get hit for it or not. It's coming before the Board of Freeholders, and I am looking at this as I would any other financial transaction, and I'm saying to myself, we certainly don't want to see bondholders, even though there's no liability to the county. And again, I'm not saying this is a bad deal. I'm just asking some simple questions. And although you have a right to indicate that it's up to the investor to review these financial statements. I don't have a 2020 financial statement. I don't know where it stands. But that's my position. I mean, I feel that there's questions, and if you can answer them, fine. If you choose not to, that's fine too.
Right. Well, we have Jennifer Consilvio on the phone. She's CFO for Uncommon Schools. I'll let her respond.
Thank you very much.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. This is Deb Consilvio. I'm the CFO from Common Schools. I'm happy to answer your questions. Regarding the current assets, what you theorized is correct. It's not uncommon when you are constructing new facilities that you take out short-term construction loans, and then once the facilities are completed, that those loans are refinanced for long-term debt. So that's exactly what's happening in this situation. We kind of have a mismatch between the assets, which, because their facilities are sitting in our long-term assets, and our current liabilities, because we have these short-term construction loans on both facilities in Newark and facilities in some of our other regions, and that, you know, have just finished completion, and we're refinancing all of that debt into long-term debt. So once those refinancings are completed, our financial statements will be more balanced, and you won't see that negative working capital numbers any longer. It's just that we're happen to be at this point in time in the process of having just completed multiple buildings and not had the opportunity to complete and close on refinancing all of that debt.
I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, we expect all that debt to be refinanced into long-term debt by the end of this calendar year.
And when you say refinance, that means just kind of move the principal payments back into a longer term.
Correct.
But
so they wouldn't sit as a current asset. So our net asset position, right, if you look at the financial statement, our net asset position, we are in a positive net asset position when you look at our total assets and our total liabilities.
Agreed.
It's only when you're looking at the current assets and the current liabilities where you have the mismatch, and it's resulting from these short-term construction loans that need to be refinanced into long-term debt. And then it will move from current assets down into the longer term, or current liabilities down into the longer term liabilities, but not really change the total position materially on the overall position for our overall net assets, and will remain in a positive position on our overall net assets.
Because in 2018, it still was negative 43 million as well. Is that
right?
The situation?
It's just because yeah, it was because we were still in the construction phases.
Okay, and I haven't seen that last footnote. Could you explain that?
So, sure. So the liquidity footnote is talking about your reserves at that specific point in time, assuming that you would receive no additional income going forward. So what that's saying is that there's 8 months of reserve, of like free and clear operating reserves that would be available to the organization, but it's not factoring in future revenue expected by the organization, which obviously, as an ongoing working organization, we fully expect to receive future revenues that would be used for operations. We budget to have at least a 2% surplus each year, so that we're allowing for flexibility in our budgets for unanticipated events, or to build up our capital reserves. But we are definitely not putting ourselves in a position of financial risk by overextending ourselves. A typical nonprofit, the expectation is that they would have between 3 and 6 months reserves. So having 8 months reserves is actually a pretty strong financial position to be in.
Are you looking in this financings, looking at the current portion of notes and bonds payable in the 18-19 balance sheet statement of financial position? Are those going to be affected by this financing? Are those going to be moved into long term?
The ones that are in the current assets right now, yes.
So you'll see movement from the 98 million in current assets down to the other liabilities, the long-term liabilities.
Once this financing is done, yes.
Okay. Now, so that'll resolve the working capital issue, and you're saying your revenue resources are adequate to cover the additional debt associated with those those construction progress, programs
That's,
that you mentioned.
that's correct.
Okay. All right, well, that's fine. I asked, I wanted to get those questions on the record. I'm satisfied with the answers, and I appreciate you coming aboard at such late notice.
I'm happy to have had the opportunity to answer your questions.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Appreciate that.
All right, okay, thank you.
Just to finish the structure, as I said before, the facilities are all leased to North Star Academy. The bonds will also be secured by a debt service reserve fund, which is approximately a year's worth of debt service. So if there is a blip in revenue, monies would be there to keep the debt service current for a year. And then that money, if it is tapped into, has to be paid back over the following year. And the bonds will be secured by a mortgage on each of the facilities. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. Freeholders, do you have any questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. President, this is Freeholder Cooper.
Thanks,
So
Freeholder Cooper.
I actually have a long laundry list of questions regarding these, but the first question is there a written legal opinion or a statement, correspondence, or something that says that this is purely ceremonial, that this has no impact on the county funding, that the county has no liability for any of this? Because if this is coming before us for us to vote on, legally, there's a reason for it, to be before us. One of my next questions is, someone earlier said that this was being done because this is a huge savings. What is the current rate that they're paying? What is the new rate going to be? What is the savings? Who is this Uncommon NSA lender to? I don't see the relationship between them and some of the schools' names that's listed in the resolutions later. Also, in one of the recitals, it talks about that refinancing a portion of the approximate $2.8 million loan. What portion of the $8.2 million is being refinanced in this current bonding that they're looking to do? That's just a short list of some of the questions that I have.
To take the last question first, if I may, the 8.2 will be paid off in full. The distinction was that a portion of that will be paid from a tax-exempt bond, and a portion will be paid back from a taxable bond. But the bonds issued by the Improvement Authority are also state tax-exempt, and that applies to both the taxable and the tax-exempt. I don't have a dollar figure for you on the savings, but as you just heard, we have a debt that's coming due. These were short-term construction loans intended to get these facilities built and occupied, and the need is there to refinance those. We believe that by going to the public market to sell bonds, we'll get the lowest cost-effective interest rate. On the tax-exempt bonds, we would anticipate the short-term maturities to be somewhere around 3.5%, and the long-term maturities to be somewhere closer to 5, say 6%. But we won't know until the sale date the actual interest rates.
And there was another question, which was is there an attorney's opinion with regard to legal liability of the county?
We provide, our firm provides a bond counsel opinion, and that opinion basically states that the bonds are secured by the revenues coming from the leases with North Star Academy Charter School. the offering documents as well as all of the bond documents that will be executed between the borrowers and the Improvement Authority will all recite at length that neither the county nor the Improvement Authority are personally liable to repay the bonds.
Mr. President, could I ask a follow-up question to Freeholder Coopers?
Yes.
Mr. Davis, does the Section 13 of the Act also speak to that, just as a general principle, to the Board of Freeholders providing consent? I mean, in addition to your opinion, is that found within the Act itself of what the parameters are of this type of lending? I know the resolution itself does speak to, or does indicate that there is no indebtedness or obligation created as a result of this, but I didn't know if it was also, and I'm actually asking the question, if it's also contained in the Act of what the
Section 13 is actually asked the Freeholder Board to approve the arrangement, if you will, between the Improvement Authority and a developer. So it's very broad in its construct. It could apply to leases or, you know, a construction project where the ECIA may be lending some form of financial assistance. So it's not just with respect to bond issues. But in this regard, it would apply to an approval of the bond issue, because that's the relationship between the Improvement Authority and the borrowers.
So
but no, it does, to answer, the short answer is it does not set the parameters of the financing.
Okay.
But the bond resolution by the adopted by the Improvement Authority does limit that exposure. So, you know, it has not pledged its revenues, and it can't pledge the county revenues to the repayment of the bonds.
So earlier you said that within the offering documents, the liability of who would, I guess, serve as a backup, a cushion in the event if there was a default. Were those documents provided to the board for our review?
No.
Why not? Why were they not provided to us?
Well, historically, I hadn't been asked to provide those.
Yes, and if I may add to this, we have done 4 other bond issues for educational purposes for 4 different boards of education within the county, and we were never asked for those.
Before our board, you came before us for other occasions?
Sure.
This is Courtney Gession, Mr. President. Through you, yes, Freeholder, that is correct. They have come before this board on 4 other occasions for bond issuance, the exact same process for the issuance of conduit bonding that is required by statute. The site is 40:37A-56. That's the requirement that they come before the county government to get their approval for the issuance of the bonds. And as Mr. Rother indicated, those documents had never been requested on prior occasions. They are just the pro forma.
What were the other purposes that was asking to be funded? What were they?
Mr. Rother, can you go through the other projects that you sent?
Oh gosh, I circulated. I don't have it in front of me, but we sent it in. Who may have received it?
I have it, Steve. Give me 1 second.
Okay, if you could.
It was forwarded to the board yesterday.
Yeah, I have it too.
Wait, I'll try and dig it up.
Here's my other question. Several of you have said that this is purely for consent. This is purely pass-through. If the board voted this down, would the authority be able to just still finance this on their own?
Yes, but at a much higher interest rate. Much higher.
Like what? Like what would the higher interest rate be?
Well, we wouldn't
probably
know.
7 or 8%. We wouldn't know till we go to market. Another alternative would be to go to a national bond issuer out of state, but those bonds are not tax exempt under New Jersey law, so that's an additional cost, and the county wouldn't realize the fees from the issuance of the bonds.
How much are the fees that the county will realize?
They're going to get 0.25% of the face amount of each bond issue. Right, Steve? I believe that's
Yes,
your
yeah,
closing fee.
that's the limit. The local finance board puts a limit on what we can charge, and that's it.
Right, and then you get 10 basis points a year as well, I believe.
Yes,
After that.
that's for our, working with the trustee.
Mr. President, if I could just add one thing. When Newark wanted money to replace the lead pipes in the city, that came before us for a vote. Everything ECIA does comes before us for a vote. Even though we don't have jurisdiction, if something goes wrong, we're not liable, but it must come before us for a vote according to the law. And we did that for the Newark lead pipes.
Yeah, and the county guaranteed that one.
Right.
It went out of the way to actually guarantee that loan.
And they've replaced about 3/4 of the lead pipes in Newark now.
Mr. President, Courtney Gassione, again, if I could respond to Freeholder Cooper's earlier question as to the earlier projects that have been funded through ECIA bond issuance that came before the board. There was the Township of Irvington General Obligation School District Revenue Bonds issued in an amount a little over $49 million. City of East Orange School District Revenue Bonds for $20 million. County of Essex for the County College in the amount of $5.6 million. And the City of Orange School District refunding revenue bonds in the amount of $2.1 million. And that was the City of Orange School District.
And I have the same list. It was sent to all of us.
The process was exactly the same for those prior bond issuances by the ECIA.
Okay, Freeholder Cooper, is that?
I would have another question for Mr. McInerney. Mr. McInerney, when with these other items were presented to us, because I do recall just about all of those. I recall the Newark lead lines, Irvington, the school boards, the county colleges. I recall all of those projects. Were you provided with the financial documentation that you asked for? Did you have opportunity to review it? Did their revenue versus their expenses present any concerns?
Well, I mean, when it came to Covanta, yes, that's a private entity. So I know and I remember and do recall requesting financial information from that corporation. With regard to the school boards, and those, I can't recall what, if anything, was requested at that point in time, but understand that there are ad valorem taxes that pay debt on school debt, pay the school debt, run through the budget. It's a little different, a financial statement, than looking at a private company. So I can't recall whether I looked at the educational institutions, but I did on the private ones, as I did today.
Their revenue, Mr. McInerney, is supported from the state or local school boards that they receive in grants?
For what? For the school board, for schools?
For this groups that we're looking at for 25 and 26, how are they funded?
These are funded from basically management fees, which are charged among the schools. Last year, the management fees were 27 million. This year, that's 19, and 18, they were 24 million. But there's also rental income they have. They also have contributions, and they do get grants, and according to their financial statements, they also give grants. It's much different than a public entity.
Thank you.
Public entity too, if I may say, is required to have a balanced budget. A private entity is not required to have a balanced budget. But they're not required to.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Freeholder Cooper. Freeholders, additional questions or comments? So just to run down,
Mr. President, Freeholder Richardson is trying to make a comment, but we couldn't hear him.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah, I'm here now. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. So I just have one question to the ECIA, and my question is, traditional public schools have the availability to get this same bonding, but their balance sheet has to be their budget has to be balanced. Is that what I heard from Mr. McInerney?
If I could say,
they have to have a balanced budget.
No, that wouldn't. When a public entity in New Jersey introduces a budget, it has to be balanced. That's not indicative, though, of a rating that they might have with bond issues or their ability to get financing. As we know, there's rating agencies and there's surplus and cash position. So there are different criteria applied to public entities than would be applied to private entities. Surplus, how do you think the county got a AAA bond rating? We had significant amount of a significant amount of cash surplus, of fund balance. If you have very little fund balance, you're overloaded with debt, bond rating goes down. Obviously, that's going to have an impact on your ability to borrow and your ability to get competitive rates. So the two different criteria, two different accounting methodologies, two different ways of reading financial statement indicators, apples and oranges in a sense. I mean, fundamentally, good financial statements, good financial health is alive and can be alive in both types of entities, but it's just measured differently.
Thank you. ECIA.
Yes.
So the question was, traditional public schools, do they have an opportunity to get bonding and financing from the ECIA? If not, what would prohibit them from being able to do the same thing that you're doing now?
No, nothing. Any board of education in Essex County that came before us, we would authorize a bond issue and we wouldn't even look at their financing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Richardson. Freeholders, additional questions or comments? Okay, so just want to review a couple of, I think, the questions that were asked, and just make sure I also understand. The county under this arrangement would have no, does not guarantee
not only doesn't guarantee, it has no liability, and
No
neither does
liability.
the ECIA.
Okay. However, the ECIA would potentially, the ECIA would potentially generate revenue.
Yes.
Okay. To the Vice President's question, which is also a critical question for me, this funding arrangement or this type of transaction is also available to all of our public school districts.
Yes, and anytime they have come before us, we have issued the bonds. We have never ever turned them down, and wouldn't.
Okay. Okay. And they also could be the beneficiaries of the county's bond rating.
Yes, if the county was willing to do that, but that's a different story. That's a totally different story.
Right. Okay. Mr. McInerney, the questions that you raised about the financial statements, based on the information that was provided, what is your recommendation to the board, at this point in time?
Well, again, it was based on looking at the financial position of the entity. The CFO explained, and it's not hard to have realized that, there is going to be refinancing. There's quite a bit of refinancing in these two resolutions. And so I don't have the cash flow, I have the plan in front of me, but it seems that the close to $100 million that is sitting in short liabilities now, affecting the working capital of the company, is now going to be termed out, if you will. Maybe it's termed out now, but it'll definitely be termed out over a longer and extended period of time, giving it the ability to be classified as a long-term liability. A long-term liability is a liability that is paid in greater than 1 year. So it can be paid from year 2 to year 30. And as you look, we have bonds ourselves. We typically in New Jersey don't classify them between short-term and long-term, but really all they're doing is looking for some, I would assume, cash flow relief and getting the bonds at a lower interest rate and probably termed out in a manner that is consistent with their revenue stream.
And we can summarize what you just said in a very simple way, which is that these bond issues are going to cure the problem you saw in their financial statement. Is that correct?
Well, assuming that the revenue stream is there, yes, of course.
Yeah, sure. And that's why we're doing it.
Right now, they have $98 million in 1 year, and they don't have the $98 million to pay it off. So they're going to have to stretch that out. It's no different than any other loan.
Yeah.
They have to get $98 million termed out for a long period that's consistent with the organization's revenue stream.
And that's what this bond issue will achieve.
Okay.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It achieves that if all of the things consistent. And so it definitely will achieve that if the revenue streams are there to support it. I'm not saying it's not there, but I'm not going to say, it fixes everything. I don't know this organization. I'm just saying that it definitely aids in the ability to pay off that debt over a longer period of time than over 1 year.
And at a lower interest rate.
And a lower interest rates, and have consistency with your projected revenue streams. I mean, I think we're speaking the same language. I just wanted to get some clarification. That's all.
So kind of understanding that, Mr. McInerney, do you have any reservations then about the board moving forward and approving this resolution? There are these two resolutions.
No, I do not.
Okay. Okay.
I asked the questions. I got satisfactory answers. What concerns I had are on the record. Those concerns be moot, you know, as the school grows, and there's nothing here. As was stated, there's sufficient equity within the entity itself on a consolidated basis. But I'm not, you know, I'm not saying nothing can go wrong. I'm just saying that this helps in making it easier for them to pay down their construction debt.
Mm-hmm.
Effectively, it's like going out and do a construction loan, and then when you're finished building your house, you get a long-term loan that's more in line with what you get every week.
Mm-hmm.
I'll use an analogy.
And this question, I think, probably is for Mr. Jackson, or since we are, I guess, in the broader, using the county in the broader term, since the county is able to participate in this transaction through the ECIA, this in no way is a broader statement by, or maybe it is about the county seeking to help finance charter schools.
I think that's sort of a loaded question, Mr. President. But in my mind, I believe that it is the county saying that it's willing to help the school entities within the county, be they public or in this case charter. Our doors are open to everybody, and whether one is in favor of a charter school or not charter schools is, I think, a different issue and a different argument for a different day from this one.
Yeah, no, I was trying to figure out a way to answer the question. I guess I should have just been more direct and said that when this first came before, when this first appeared on the agenda, and I think it's a separate issue from the actual whether the county has the ability under the law to do this and what the role the board plays in the process. But there was I personally definitely have some uneasiness around the idea of the county potentially doing something for a charter school, and that being perceived that we are undercutting our public schools by the support of any individual charter school.
That's a philosophical question, Mr. President. That's, I think, different from what's being brought before the board today. That's just mine.
And President Gill, Courtney Gassion, if I could just respond briefly. As I indicated earlier, this is not a choice of the county. This is a requirement statutorily. So if ECIA wants to issue these bonds, we are obligated by statute to bring it before the board, this board, for approval. So it is not a voluntary action by this board other than to vote yes or no on it, but the administration is obligated to bring it before you for a vote by statutory requirement. So I don't know that something that you're statutorily required to do can be considered a referendum or an issuance of an opinion on a topic one way or another. It's a statutory obligation that we are fulfilling because of our relationship, our statutory authority with the ECIA.
Mm-hmm. Understood. Thank you.
If I could just add something,
Sure.
Mr. President. Okay, we have authorized many resolutions in the past dealing with ECIA. We have never, ever determined whether the company seeking that money was something we approved of. That is not something which is within the freeholder jurisdiction to decide. ECIA decides and puts it before us because we must, by law, approve it. But we don't determine whether we like the company or not. If we go back in time, and I've been here for many years,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily.
Mr. Jackson, you're not on mute, Mr. Jackson.
I don't necessarily like all the companies that come before us for money, but I don't think that is within our jurisdiction to decide whether we like the company or not. If they come before ECIA and they would like to borrow money, then we vote for it. It comes before us. We don't determine whether it's right. We never discussed whether Newark was doing the right thing by coming to us and not going to someplace else. I don't think that's within our jurisdiction to do that. And look, I believe in public education tremendously. I taught for 30 years. And I don't necessarily agree with charter schools, although I do know of some charter schools who have done a great job, like the Robert Treat Academy. But that's not my determination here to decide whether I like the company or not, and I like what they're doing. If they want to borrow the money, that's our decision to go with it or not. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other additional questions or comments? Okay, I have a motion this is on resolution, seeing and hearing none. On resolutions 25 and 26, I have a motion from Freeholder Siebold and a second from Freeholder Pomaris. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebold.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
No.
Freeholder Pomaris.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Luciano.
Present, not voting.
Freeholder Johnson, absent. Freeholder Graham.
Present, not voting.
Freeholder Cooper.
No.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
Okay.
So Madam Clerk, I have 3 yes, 2 no, and 4 present not voting. So I think you're basing it on the 5 present and voting. Those present and voting are 5, so it's 3-2. 3 yes to 2 no.
And so that is moved.
Carries.
Okay, Counselor, I just want to make sure the decision is moved.
That's correct.
So moved.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Good. Bye-bye.
Take care, Bernie. Take care, Bernie.
Thank you.
Take care, friend. See ya.
So Madam Clerk, just again, we had 3 yes, 2 no, and 2 present up.
Well, you had 3 present, 2 present not voting, 2 absent. Yeah. So
Gotcha.
I'm
those-
sorry.
Okay.
What was
So
the
it's-
vote?
Just let me play it out. There were 5 people who were present and voting. Of those 5, 3 voted yes, 2 voted no. So the 3 present and voting carried the vote.
3-2. Got
Yes,
it.
Mr.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. President, that is correct.
And now,
Okay.
how many present not voting? 2?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move to resolutions 27 through 29. Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Items 27 through 29. For item 27, our health officer, Maya Lauder, was here, and with a representative from Accurate Diagnostics. Maya? Are you there, Maya? I'm not sure, Mr. President, if she's not connecting or. Yeah, go ahead, Maya. Yes.
He just unmuted me. Good evening. Accurate Diagnostics is a lab located in South Plainfield. Their testing facility is through Rutgers University. We are using them for our saliva testing materials. We are using them at our satellite sites at the various in municipalities in which we are hosting our testing sites. Accurate Diagnostics is returning our specimens within a 48-hour turnaround period. They have recently been given extra funding through the New Jersey Department of Health to increase their capacity. We are looking to go ahead and sign a contract with them for the remainder of the year to supply us with the saliva PCR diagnostic kit. Does Accurate have anything to add?
Thanks, Maya. Scott Montgomery, and I'm joined by Patricia Welsh, our contract manager, and George Rayner, sales director. So yeah, no, that sums it up. We've been working with various counties since the pandemic began with the saliva testing. We do all the front end, back end, and work in a joint venture with RUCDR out of Rutgers University, who actually performs the testing and received FDA clearance through the EUA for not only testing, but also at-home kit testing, et cetera. So it's been a good relationship with various counties in New Jersey.
Mr. Pearl, thank you.
No questions on this.
McInerney? Looks like he's gone.
Freeholder President,
Field Siebel.
may I just add that I went for the saliva test last week and they did a wonderful job and I got my results back very quickly.
Thank you. Can I quote you for that and put it in the paper?
Yes.
Appreciate that.
No, you did a wonderful job.
I'm glad to hear.
Siebel, I didn't want to jump in, but no, you cannot endorse the product.
I know that, I know. But I just wanted to put on the record that they were terrific.
Thank you.
Very good. Field Cooper.
Quick question, and then two quick questions. When participants go to do this testing, is there any billing to their insurance? I've been asked that question by residents, and I don't know the answer 100%.
So the answer to that question is no. The county is taking that on as during the current pandemic, during the state of emergency.
Okay. And then the next question is for Mr. Jackson. Under the laboratory services agreement, Mr. Jackson, that's attached to the back of the resolution, under the first section, term and termination, it says this agreement shall be for initial term and shall be automatically renewed. Are we going to automatically renew this? Or is this something you want to review? Just curious, just because it's in the agreement.
I'm sorry, Freeholder, could you? I'm not.
Robert, if you'd like, I could respond to that if you'd like, Robert.
Okay, I will see that.
Mr. President, Courtney Gassione, Essex County Council, through you, Freeholder Cooper. So we had entered into this contract for a 1-year period. It can be terminated with 30 days notice by either of the parties. We did put in the automatic renewal, but at that point, before the end of that 1-year period, there will be a review of where we are with the pandemic, what our numbers are looking like, and whether or not the call for the testing is still required. So it's going to be an ongoing analysis, and hopefully a year from now, we will not have the same need for testing that we do now. But certainly it's something that we'll review at that time with the vendor.
Thank you, Courtney.
Mr. President, may I add again? First of all, I just want to compliment Maya Lordo for doing such an excellent job as our health officer under such difficult circumstances. And Freeholder Cooper, when I went, I didn't have to pay anything. There was no cost whatsoever. There is no cost to the residents. It's really a wonderful procedure for everyone in Essex County. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. President.
Yep. Absolutely, Vice President.
So I vaguely recall about a month or so ago, the CDC coming out with new guidelines, and one of the guidelines suggested that the saliva test may have a high inaccuracy or false positive reading, if I'm not mistaken. They also talked about the other tests. I can't think of it now, but it's the antibody test not really being necessary or worth the time to do it. Did I hear that wrong about the saliva test?
So I'm gonna have Scott talk about the accuracy of the saliva test, and you can touch upon the serology, and then I'll follow up, Scott.
Sure. Yeah. So
Can you use?
I believe you did hear that. You did. Can you hear me?
Just identify yourself, Scott.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Scott Montgomery with Accurate Diagnostic. Yeah, that you did you did hear that. I think mistakenly. So the CDC, there's not information about that, but with the FDA approval through the EUA, an enormous amount of studies have taken place, obviously with them clearing this test for various purposes, including at-home kit without supervision of a medical professional. So the data on sensitivity, specificity for all methods of PCR testing, nasopharyngeal, throat, etc., it's still accumulating the data for those numbers. Obviously, this is a brand new assay starting in March. But as it relates to the studies that we did with relating it to the nasopharyngeal and saliva throat swabs, it was about 100% concordance in the studies that were cleared through the FDA.
So wait a minute. You said a lot of stuff, but I don't know what you're talking about. It was a simple question. And the question was,
so the simple answer,
the CDC come out and say that the saliva test had a high number, a high percentage of false positive readings?
So
that was the question.
Freeholder, may I just interject this, Maya? I know that some of that has come out. I think what you're referring to is the rapid tests that have come out, the 45-minute test. Is that what you're referring to? Those are
I'm
also
referring to the saliva test.
Excuse me, through you, Mr. President, will people please identify themselves before each time they speak?
Pardon. So
Thank
this
you.
is Maya Lordo speaking. So Freeholder, the PCR tests that we are using currently, the saliva test, along with the nasopharyngeal, which are the ones up through the nostril. The test came back that the saliva tests have actually a higher accuracy rate than those nasopharyngeals. CDC, and then when you did refer to the serology testing, which is a different type of testing, which tests for antibodies, it does not test for the presence of the virus. It is not a diagnostic test. It is the possible exposure of the virus that you may have had at one time. Currently, CDC does not recognize, nor does New Jersey Department of Health recognize serology testing as a diagnostic tool to determine whether you are positive for the virus. They also do that. What that test does is it detects antibodies that your body has produced because of an exposure to the virus of COVID-19. That being said, we do not know currently how long these antibodies last And that is why we cannot depend on the serology test. Also, the PCR test, which is a DNA based test, which is a viral replication, which what it does is it replicates when we do the test, which includes the saliva and the PCR testing. What it does is it replicates the DNA of the virus to make more of it so we can see if it's truly detectable or not. That's why we don't need as much saliva, or we just need that nasal swab. But the rapid tests that I had mentioned, those are also saliva based. Those saliva tests, what they do is they don't actually test for the presence of the virus. They actually only test for the outside of the virus. So those are indeed, and you are correct, those are indeed producing false negatives, because they're not really finding the virus itself. They're only finding the outer coatings of that virus. Does that help in any way to clear that up?
Kind of, sort of.
Okay.
So the saliva test that you guys are administering is more accurate than the nasal test. That's what you said.
That is correct based on studies. Scott, can you just also tell us your background, Scott? That would help.
Yeah, so, and I'm not a scientist, so if you have additional questions, we could defer to Dr. Brooks at RUCDR. But so my background, I've been a vice president in business development for Accurate Diagnostic for almost 2 years. Prior to that, I was with BioReference for 10 years, Quest for 4 years, and LabCorp for 6 years. So a wealth, as you'll say, of laboratory experience. And then to Maya's point, thank you, Maya. And I was unaware, I apologize, Freeholder, that you were under the impression it was an instant test. So yes, there are a lot of studies on the instant test of some I don't say credibility, but in terms of false positives and or false negatives. This is a commercially run test with both Thermo Fisher and PerkinElmer at the Rutgers facility. And it's a real-time PCR like all the other commercial laboratories, and it's not an instant test.
Thank you.
Okay, Freeholders, additional questions or comments? Okay, I have a mover and Freeholder Siebel and a second from Freeholder Cooper to take 27 and 29 as one. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson, absent. Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's move to resolutions 30 through 32, which are from the Division of Family Assistance and Benefits. Please read them into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. President, item 30 is a modification of an agreement with Hudson Community Enterprises. As you recall, the board had approved them to do some inventory and storage of records as part of our move to 3/23/21. This is a 12-month contract, an amount not to exceed $28,527 to inventory and store 7,000 boxes. This is and then coming in toward the end of the year, we will go back and have a full contract to cover an entire year. And this is a result of having a few more boxes than we originally anticipated. Item 31 is a budget insertion in amount of $53,904. This is for the funding of the administration of the Low Income Energy Assistance Program. This grant offsets a small portion of salary and benefits for DFAB employees who perform under this program, and there's no county match. 2032 is also a budget insertion in the amount of $35,936. This is for the Utility and Home Energy Emergency Assistance Program. Again, this offsets a small portion of the DFAB employees who perform this function with no county match. Item 30, do you want me to go to 33 as well?
Let's do 30 through 32.
Okay.
Mr. Parlavecchio,
Oh, no questions on these.
McInerney.
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Freeholders, questions or comments?
So George.
Okay. We have a motion from Freeholder Cooper and a second from Freeholder Graham to take 30 through 32 as one. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebel,
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson,
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares,
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent Freeholder Luciano,
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson, absent Freeholder Graham,
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper,
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, let's move to Resolution 33. Mr. Jackson.
Yes, this is an approval of amendment to the 2020 area plan for our Division of Senior Services. As you recall, the board approved an insertion of $653,421 back on June 10th. This amendment is basically going to provide where that money goes to three providers: Krill Care, an amount of $327,000 approximately, Focus for $277,000, and Jewish Community Center for $50,000.
Okay, Mr. Parlavecchio.
No question.
McInerney.
No questions.
Okay, Freeholders. Okay, seeing or hearing none, we have a motion from Freeholder Graham and a second from Freeholder Luciano. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper,
Yes.
Freeholder Graham,
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson, absent Freeholder Luciano,
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent Freeholder Pomares,
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson,
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel,
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, moving to Resolutions 34 through 36. Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Serio is here to address these items.
Yes. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. So the first item we're presenting tonight is the amendment to the 2019 one-year action plan. The county was notified by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development that the county would be receiving CARES Act funding through the Community Development Block Grant Fund, as well as the Emergency Solution Grant in two tranches. The county is required to put together a plan, which we have, and that's been presented tonight. Upon approval by the freeholders, the county will submit the plan to HUD for their approval. The matrix stipulates that the county intends to use the first tranche of ESG split evenly for a homeless prevention rapid rehousing program. This is for families that are either literally homeless or in danger of becoming homeless. This would allow the county to pay a landlord on behalf of that said tenant their rent for a period of 6 months. The county would have to recertify and review after 6 months to see if that family is still eligible for the assistance. The second tranche of ESG is essentially just a repeat of the first tranche. It's allocating equal amount for rapid housing and homeless prevention. But in addition to that, we're requesting to enter into a contract with Project Live to prevent the homelessness of 32 tenants that our Essex County Cease Committee has advised us they have lost the vouchers for these 32 tenants, and that without this assistance, these tenants would be homeless. So that amount will keep them in their units for the period of time until the deceased can renew their vouchers with the state. Lastly, the CDBG COVID funds. We are asking for $1.5 million to be put into a short-term rental assistance program. Currently, under the current rules and regulations of CDBG, emergency assistance can be provided to tenants. However, it can't exceed 3 months. So that's why we've stipulated that this be a short-term rental assistance. The difference between this and the ESG funding is that ESG funding is capped at 50% area median income for a family household, whereas CDBG can go up to 80% of the area median income. So it'll open that program up to a wider swath of families. Then we have put in line items for food pantries, $600,000, and then a miscellaneous nonprofit COVID-related activities totaling $474,450. The reason why we did this is HUD has indicated that guidance will be coming out further advising counties how these funds can be utilized. Currently, the guidance that's been provided by HUD only indicates that the current regulations should be applied, in addition to documenting that the activity is addressing, responding to, or preparing for COVID. But HUD has not given any further guidance beyond that. So what we intend to do is submit this plan. Once that guidance does become available, we would issue applications for nonprofit entities and then bring those back to the board for approval. So the total package, with the first tranche is $1,574,441 in ESG. Second tranche of ESG is $2,974,183, and then the CDBG is at $3,218,062.
Okay, Mr. Padalecchio.
No questions.
Mr. McInerney?
Are any of these fundings part of federal or state COVID funds that have been made available?
No, this is, well, I should say the state is also receiving ESG. Your direct entitlement cities such as Newark and East Orange also are receiving direct entitlement funds through their CDBG program. So they have, they are setting up their own programs based upon the needs of their citizens. The one thing that we, that HUD was reminding us when we were planning for this funding becoming available is not to replicate any other CARES Act funding. So tenant assistance is one of those areas that wasn't covered under the other CARES Act programs. That's why there's a big focus on that in this plan.
So just so you know, the county Freeholder board is tracking COVID-related funding coming through the county. And even if it's going elsewhere, either to a subgrantee or to a municipality or anybody else in the county, as long as it's coming through the county in insertion of a grant of some sort or some sort of funding, are these qualified as part defined by what I just said?
I'm sorry, it cut out a little bit.
I apologize. Let me just say again quickly. The freeholders are tracking federal and state monies coming through the county or through the county. Are any of these fit category? Even if they're going to a subgrantee or a municipality or?
I would have to respond an affirmative that yes, because the original legislation came from the CARES Act.
So all of the ones that you just went over would be grants that are related to the CARES Act funding?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Freeholders? Okay, hearing and seeing none, I have a motion from Freeholder Luciano and a second from Freeholder Primaris to take resolutions 34 and 36 as one. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Sebel,
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson,
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares,
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado absent, Freeholder Luciano,
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson absent, Freeholder Graham,
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper,
This is for 34, 35, and 36, right?
yes.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill,
Yes.
so moved.
Okay, moving to resolution. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving to resolution number 37, Mr. Jackson.
Apologies, Director Momford is here to address this item.
Good evening, freeholders. Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
We hear you.
Good evening, freeholders. This is a grant from the New Jersey Department of Labor to provide out-of-school summer youth employment training program for 16 to 24-year-olds. We applied to do this grant back in January, but because of COVID, the New Jersey Department of Labor did not release the funding of the $132,000 until 3 weeks before the program was supposed to start. And when they released it, they asked us to modify the original program that we had proposed to them. So I took the time with my staff, and we met with Dan and Kate from the Parks Department, and we decided to put these 25 youth to work, receiving a stipend of $11.80 an hour to be park ambassadors. What they are going to be doing is working at the playgrounds, making sure that people are wearing a mask, making sure the kids are coming in with masks on, helping keeping the park facilities where the kids play clean. And then once a week, they will have a virtual financial literacy and job readiness program going on. We allotted funds for 25 individuals. The program will last 8 weeks, and that's pretty much the cusp of what we're going to be doing with this funding.
Okay, Mr. Parlavecchio,
Comments?
Mr. McInerney,
No comment.
Freeholders, questions or comments?
Mr. President, this is Freeholder Cooper.
Yep.
Question, did this program start already?
Yes, it started on July 27th.
So do you have kids working in Wazquez Park?
I believe Kate did assign some of the youth to Wazquez, Weekway, Bloomfield, and Bellsbury. She tried to assign the kids close to where they lived at.
Okay. Because I've gotten, I'm asking because I've gotten a couple of complaints from constituents about, with the border area there being open, and I was wondering if we had staff that was manning that. I mean, I have pictures that folks sent to me.
Yeah, we started on the 27th, and the kids, the date was the 27th, but they had to go through an orientation with Parks. All of them had to be COVID tested, and they pretty much really started working around maybe that Wednesday, and as you know, yesterday they didn't work because of the weather, and a little bit today. But yes, they are assigned to the Parks. I will make sure that I get the list of who's assigned where. I don't have it on me now, but we do have a list of where everyone is.
All right, I'll follow up and send my pictures to Mr. Jackson or to Phil, the complaints that I've gotten from citizens, so that I can respond to them appropriately to let them know that we do have staff there, and after we need to evaluate, we need to add an additional person. I don't know, but I'll send them to you. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. Thanks, Freeholder Cooper. And Mr. Jackson, if we could just provide the list to the clerk of who was hired and where they are. to the board. Thank you. Additional questions or comments, Freeholders? Okay, seeing or hearing none, we have a motion from Freeholder Primaris and a second from Vice President Richardson. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson absent. Freeholder Luciano. Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado absent. Freeholder Primaris.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
Can, through you, Mr. President, can you please mute your mic? We're getting,
Who are you asking to mute your mic?
I think there might have been someone on the phone calls.
Oh, okay. Okay. Resolution 38 through 42, Mr. Jackson.
Yes. County Engineer Varghese is here to address those items. Sanjeev.
Good afternoon. Sanjeev Varghese, County Engineer. Resolution number 38 is a contract with Chanel contracting to repair parking deck number 1, which was built like 15 years ago. It started chipping and reinforcement started exposing. This will go back and repair those chips and repair the parking deck back to its original condition. And we went out for bid, and we have 5 bids. Chanel Contracting is the lowest bidder, and they are a union contractor for masons. And we have somebody, a representative from them on the line if we need to talk to them.
Yeah, I am here. My name's John Slavic.
Mayor, you want him to talk to?
Yes, just keep going, Stan.
So item number 39 is a contract for, it's an open-ended contract for MEP HVAC system for all county facilities. This is an open-ended contract. Again, it's as needed basis. This is for major repairs, any repairs or rehabilitation which we cannot do in-house, which we use outside contractors for mechanical, electrical, plumbing. Again, they are a union contractor. It's the first time we are dealing with Unitemp. That is item number 39. Item number 40 is a contract for branch park maintenance yard roof. It's in really bad shape. It's getting to unsafe conditions. This will completely replace the roof. Again, I also have the vendor, the contractor online in case we need to talk to them. Item number 41 is it's again open-ended contract to purchase flags for all county facilities for next 2 years. Again, it's the lowest bidder, and we just use it as needed basis. Item number 42 is the insertion of revenue from NJTPA for transportation planning, which we get annually $132,000. This actually subsidizes our salary for the planning division we have.
Thank you, Stan.
Yep.
Okay, Mr. Parlavecchio.
Just a question on 38. I understand it's rehabilitation. Is there a scope of work, or is this inspection to see what needs some upgrading, not upgrading, but what needs some fixing?
This is actual work. and we know what needs to be fixed because there are exposed rebars, there are chips, there are uneven surfaces. Unless we take care of it now, it's going to be a major problem, and it's going to affect the life of the parking deck.
Okay, so you've done your own analysis of it. Now this is the remedial portion of it.
Yes, this deck is almost 15 years old. So if we don't take care of the deck now, the life of this deck could substantially be reduced.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. McInerney?
I have no questions.
Freeholders? Okay, we have resolutions 38 through 42, which we'll take as one. I have a motion from Vice President Richardson and a second from Freeholder Siebel. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper. Freeholder Cooper.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson, absent Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Mr. President, may I just add something before we move on?
Sure.
While we're on with Sanjeev, I'd like to thank him for all the great work he did yesterday after that storm and going in today, because so many of the towns really got hit hard. And the town I live in was rated the town that had the worst destruction. And Sanjeev, you've done a terrific job. Thank you.
Very good.
Are you there, Sanjeev?
Yes, thank you so much.
Very good. Moving to resolution 43 through 47, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Zates is here to address these items, and I believe also County Engineer will weigh in on number 44 as well. Josh?
Sure. Joshua Zates, Essex County Parks. Number 43 and number 44 are related in that number 43 is a partial funding source for number 44. 43 is the authorization to use the Essex County Recreation Open Space Trust Fund for the Turtleback Zoo exhibit repairs, not to exceed $622,000. The scope of the project includes demolition of the existing building, access areas to the existing exhibit, some installation of an eagle habitat exhibit, drainage, natural boulders, installation of a center steel column, and it's also going to bring the exhibit up to ADA standards. Would you like me to move on to 45?
Please.
Sure. Number 45 is.
We're gonna go up to 47, Mr. Jackson.
Yeah, so you can just keep going, Josh.
Okay, so that was 43, and then 44 is the actual contract for the work over at the Eagle exhibit. Number 45 is exciting as it's authorization from the Open Space Trust Fund for the 2020 Local Aid Program. This program awards $150,000 to each Essex County municipality. 21 of the 22 municipalities applied. The project scopes range from playground improvements, ball field improvements, municipal pool renovations, pond dredging, and the creation of outdoor exercise areas. This is the 5th time that we've done this program. The previous years were 2004, 2005, 2009, as well as 2014. So 45 and 46 are related. 45 is the authorization to use the Open Space Trust Fund, and then 46 is the various grant agreements with the different municipalities. And finally, number 47 is the approval of our community-based deer management plan permit application. And we do have our deer management consultant, Dan Bernier, on the line if you have any specific questions, and he could better explain the program.
Okay, Mr. Vazquez.
No questions.
McInerney?
No questions.
Actually, Mr. President, I do have one. I forgot about 45. All these authorizations to the different towns, I presume these are all allowable uses of the open space funds for each different project?
Joshua Zates, County Parks. Through you, Mr. President, that is correct. The reason that there's only 21 of the 22 municipalities is the 22nd municipality. We went over project scopes with them, and the various things they wanted to do with the grant weren't within the scope of the Open Space Trust Fund.
Thank you, Josh.
Mr. President?
Yes.
On July 16th, the Open Space Trust Fund Advisory Board met, and we reviewed everything that's coming before you right now, including all the towns and the money they're getting and what they're going to be doing. And I believe that probably all of you got a list of what the towns are doing, and it's really, it hasn't been done in a couple of years, and it's really very great that they're going to be doing such terrific work. The only thing that didn't come before us was the deer management plan. We just discussed the Turtleback Zoo Eagle exhibit and the repairs that are desperately needed, and also the money for the various communities. And everyone was very, very happy with what is going to be done. Thank you.
Very good. Freeholder, additional questions or comments?
Are we going to be hearing about the deer management?
Mr. Jackson?
I'm sorry, Mr. President.
The question is on the deer management plan, if we were going to hear anything more on the plan.
Mr. Bernier is here to any questions that you have or issues. Mr. Bernier is on the line.
Thank you. Mr. Bernier?
You should be on. Josh, is Dan on?
Josh Zates, County. Dan, are you on? If not, Tara, are you on?
Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm on. I think Dan doesn't know how to mute or unmute himself. I'm trying
Can you
to
hear me?
explain to him.
Can you
I'm
hear me
here.
now?
If you have any questions.
I think we can, Dan. Go ahead. Tara, I think Dan's finally got on.
Okay, great. I'll mute.
I'm here. Sorry about
Go
that.
ahead, Dan.
Do you want me to do a quick overview of the program?
Please.
Okay. Members of the board, good evening. For those of you who are new to the board, I have been working in the field of deer management since 1994 when we first started a program in the Watkins Reservation in Union County, and I have been the consultant for the Essex County program since 2008. Since then, we have had years of high harvest and years of low harvest. 2019, two seasons ago, was the second highest harvest we ever had. 200 deer harvested in one 6-week season. So this past year, when we removed a lesser number, I'm sorry, let me just get that number for you. 92. It was really more of an average or slightly less than average year. But it's not fair to draw a comparison to 2019 because that was such an abnormally large year. The difference in the 2 years is that because so many deer were removed in 2000, obviously there were less to pick out in 2019, but 92 deer was still a very good number. Also, very importantly, 2020 was what we refer to as a high mast crop year. This is going to sound kind of strange, but there are cycles at which the oak trees produce more or less acorns, and in the years where there were a lot of acorns, that's called a large mast year. This past year was an extremely large mast year when there is such a large volume of acorns on the ground. Deer harvests fall off because the deer are no longer attracted to bait. So that definitely has an effect. In fact, it had an effect on deer harvest all across the state of New Jersey this year. But even in spite of that, we took 37 deer from South Mountain Reservation, 55 from the Hilltop Reservation, 55 deer from such a small area as Hilltop shows that there is still such a high need to be removing deer from the county parks. The large mass crop is probably going to result in better reproductive health among the deer this year, meaning more births. So the population is going to see an upswing. Usually we do a spotlight count of the deer populations at the end of each hunting season to assess the status of the deer population density. This year, we also planned to get into new technology, working with Raritan Valley Community College. The plan was to do an aerial infrared census from drones, which has been done elsewhere successfully, and we were looking for the opportunity to be able to compare our spotlight count numbers with aerial infrared, which we believe will be more accurate and more comprehensive. We had a plan to do both the spotlight and the aerial drone surveys simultaneously. However, COVID-19 pandemic came along and we literally had to cancel the both of those counts the day that they were scheduled to happen. And because of the COVID situation, weren't able to go back to do it. So the plan for this coming year, instead of being based on spotlight counts from this year, is based on spotlight counts from last year, from which I have factored out last year's harvest. We use formulas to figure in the new births that were expected for this year, and then back out any natural mortality, car accidents, old age, that type of thing. So that results in a plan for 2021 that basically is a repeat of the same plan that we had in 2020. We would be hunting afternoons only, 6 afternoons in each park, 6 at South Mountain Reservation on Tuesdays, 6 afternoons on Thursdays in Hilltop Reservation, and the calendar includes 2 rain dates for each of those parks in case there's snow or rain that forces a cancellation of a day. This program would again be conducted under a community-based deer management permit, which has to be approved by the New Jersey Fish and Game Council and the New Jersey DEP. And one of the requirements of a community-based permit is that the venison be donated to a charitable cause. So again, we would provide venison to the Community Food Bank of New Jersey. To date, Essex County has provided almost 50,000 pounds of venison to the Community Food Bank, which equates to about 20,000 meals, which is something we can all be very proud of. So that is the program in a nutshell. I kept it very short because I know you've had a very long meeting today, but I would be happy to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Freeholders. Okay, hearing or seeing none, I have a motion from Freeholder Siebold and a second from Freeholder Cooper to take resolutions 43 through 47 as one. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebold.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Ricardo, absent. Freeholder Luciano. Freeholder Luciano. Absent. Freeholder Johnson. Absent. Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper. Freeholder
Yes.
Cooper. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay. Thank you.
Freeholder
Moving to
Luciano, yes.
I'm sorry. Who was that? Freeholder Luciano?
Yes, please. Sorry about that.
Okay, Freeholder Luciano is yes, Mr. President.
Okay, moving to resolution 48. Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President. The county currently has a lease agreement with Iron Gate Associates. We lease 245 parking spaces for employees, state and county employees at the Gibraltar building. And this is an extension of that lease for 5 years in an amount of $586,221 $1,284 per year with some 3% annual increases. That's essentially and the aggregate of this is $3,112,331.37.
Okay. Freeholder, do you have any questions or, I'm sorry, Ms. Parlavecchio?
No question.
Ms. McInerney?
No questions.
Okay. Freeholders, additional questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, I have a motion from Freeholder Cooper and a second from Freeholder Graham. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson, absent. Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, moving to resolution number 49, Mr. Jackson.
Item 49, Mr. President, is an extension of a contract that we have with the state of New Jersey, the Medical Examiner's Office, to provide medical examiner services and forensic toxicology services. The agreement we had, a 5-year agreement, expired on June 30th, 2020. The state was unable to, because of COVID-19, unable to get all the contracts out in a timely manner. So this agreement would extend our current agreement at the current rate for 3 months, ending in September 30th, 2020. And we will have a new agreement, long-term agreement, to present to the board at one of our September board meetings.
Okay. Parlavecchio.
No questions.
Freeholders. Mr. McInerney.
No questions.
Okay, I have a motion from Freeholder Graham and a second from Freeholder Luciano. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Okay. Freeholder Siebel.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson, absent. Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, moving to resolutions 50 through 57. I'm going to ask if we can do the 2020 New Jersey Governor's Awards by acclamation.
Mr. President?
Yep.
Freeholder Pomares, if possible, if not by acclamation, I'd like to be included in resolution number 54, but I think that we may want to do that by acclamation.
Oh, yeah, missed that. Thank you. I think 54 by acclamation as well.
I would agree. I think it should be by acclamation. Also 55.
Agreed.
Okay.
And number 51 and 52, you wanted to do by acclamation?
Could we do
Correct.
51 and 52, please?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, we have a motion from Freeholder Luciano and a second from Freeholder Pomares on 50 through 57.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Johnson, absent. Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay. Moving to resolution 58, which has been listed as acclamation, but I believe Vice President Richardson, would you like to speak at all to resolution 58?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Just a few brief remarks about Resolution 58. So thank you for the opportunity to speak to this resolution. Since the passage of the 13th Amendment, the punishment clause has been used disproportionately against African Americans, and the manner of their imprisonment resembles modern day slavery, with prison overcrowding and the use of for-profit prisons have become popular and employ the use of prison labor, resulting in a billion-dollar market. It is our opinion private institutions are most useful when providing reentry and drug rehabilitation services to inmates and former inmates. There are examples of private institutions that have historically provided the value reentry and drug rehabilitation services, which benefit both the inmates and the community at large. We, the members of the Essex County Board of Chosen Freeholders, find that the utilization of private prisons to only perform the function of housing inmates without providing concurrent treatment or regeneration services does not work. We call upon the governor and legislative bodies of the state of New Jersey to stop delegating its police powers and abolish the use of private prisons that simply house inmates for profit and have not provided services to address inmates' recovery, reentry, and drug rehabilitation. So thanks again for the opportunity, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you, Vice President Richardson. I agree. For Freeholder, additional questions or comments?
I would like to just add that it was a very, very well thought out statement by Freeholder Vice President, and I am in total agreement.
Thank you.
Freeholder,
Sure, Freeholder Cooper.
thank you. I would echo Freeholder Siebo's comments. I just wanted to add that I thought that this is probably one that if we could do it by acclamation as well, I think we all probably agree with this. I'm just looking at it and I only saw a couple of names. I just didn't know.
It's by acclamation.
Okay.
It was changed. It was changed.
It was changed. All right. Thank you.
And again, through you, Mr. President, I just want to thank everyone for their support, and rallying around this issue is very important to who we are, what we stand for. So thank colleagues, and thank all of you.
You're right.
Yes.
Very good. I think it's agreed. Thank you, Vice President Richardson. It's a great resolution. Supported wholeheartedly. Any additional questions or comments? Okay, we have a mover in Vice President Richardson and a second from Freeholder Pomares. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson, absent. Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay. Moving to resolution number 59, Freeholder Cooper.
Thank you, Freeholder President. Resolution 59 is calling on the governor to continue to provide the senior freeze program. I don't know if some of you have received calls from constituents inquiring about the status of the senior freeze program and looking for their financial reductions that they normally get. This program is vital to seniors throughout the state, where it gives them a little reprieve from paying their property taxes. And as we all know, with COVID right now, a lot of people are unemployed, and some of them who have tenants, their tenants are not able to pay the rents that some of them are used to receiving. So this resolution, as it stands right now, the governor hasn't vetoed or cut the program, but the program seems to be on hold. I called up a couple of tax collectors throughout Essex County that I know to make sure that what the constituents were telling me were correct, and a couple of them have confirmed that it hasn't been terminated completely, but the notices and the paperwork that seniors normally get hasn't been sent to them. And now it's, in the month of August, and some of them are looking for that financial reduction that they normally get on their tax bill. So that's what this resolution is calling for. We all received a copy of it from another county who approved it, and so this resolution simply mimics with, I believe it was Bergen County. Clerk Ford can confirm for me which county it was. So it just mimics what they passed in another county. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes, Freeholder Siebel.
could this resolution be by acclamation?
Yes, I will be excited if the rest of the Freeholder Board would join me in asking that the Senior Freeze Program continue for New Jersey seniors. Thank you.
I would very much like to be included. Perhaps the
Absolutely.
others would also.
Include me, please.
So would
Very
I.
good.
Include me, also Freeholder Green.
Very good. Any additional questions or comments? Okay, so we have a motion from Freeholder Cooper and a second from Freeholder Graham. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper,
Yes.
Freeholder Graham,
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson, absent Freeholder Luciano, Freeholder Mercado, absent Freeholder Palmares,
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson,
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel,
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano,
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill,
Yes.
so moved.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Reports of board committees, legislative reports, written communication, unfinished business. Any unfinished business, freeholders? New business? Okay, public comment. Okay, let's move to public comment session. Non-agenda items, Madam Clerk. Public has had the opportunity to submit questions and comments for consideration. Madam Clerk, please state the names of the constituents, identify the topic, and you can read their comments and questions into the record, and we will respond in writing.
Mr.
Mr.
President,
Mr. President, if I may, I apologize in advance. I think I'm totally out of order, but I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask a question. If a member of the public was in our normal meeting, the time would be 3 minutes. The time limit would be 3 minutes. Why is it that I'm able to read a statement that's 10 minutes long? It seems to me, I don't understand the balance. Again, I apologize but maybe I can ask a question to some of the elected guys. I'll be the bad guy, but I wonder why that is.
Mr. President, I was thinking the same thing that Mr. Jackson asked.
And I totally agree.
Mr. President, through you, there was only one that was that long, and going forward, we'll time it. Sometimes I don't get these things that are put together until afternoon on the day of the meeting. So, there are adjustments that continue to be made in our new normal. And so I will try to address that, and I will work with the counselor to see how we can be in compliance with the Open Records Act when I'm going to have to edit the length of the document. So this is something we'll work on prior to the next meeting.
Sounds good.
All right.
Yeah,
I
thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Clerk. I think that's absolutely taken under consideration, and I think the issue for me, Ms. Jackson, is that now that we are in the new normal, I mean, I'm very uncomfortable as a general matter, and I think it's our responsibility as elected officials to listen to what our constituents have to say. So I'm not saying you're suggesting that, but I want to make sure that we do everything that we can to make sure that they have opportunities to be heard, because I think that's our responsibility. With how we're going to meet like this through the rest of the year, and we should definitely discuss it and talk about how we can meet those goals and keep some consistency with how things would have happened if we were meeting in person.
Okay.
And just for the record, Mr. President, I presume that was the thinking. I understand it, but it
Yep.
seemed there were certain cases that were abusive.
Yeah, they were just. Yeah, I think the first thing was to try to collect them, especially ones that are the same, so, and then the second is, determining when we have, if someone's, submitted a statement that was, which, theoretically you could, under the size of War and Peace, how we would handle introducing that to the record. What's most important also, in addition to listening and reviewing, since these are also all sent to all the individual freeholders, is also the responses, so, and I think that's as critical as reading them into the record is, and having opportunities for them to be heard. So, how we respond. So, Madam Clerk, let's discuss it and figure out how we can meet the goals of making sure our constituents are heard and still run an efficient meeting.
With that said, Administrator Jackson, you'll be happy to know that we only have about 5 or 6, and they're well under 3 minutes for this segment of the public comment. The first comment was submitted by Han Brokeman of Fair Lawn, New Jersey. Dear ladies and gentlemen, I know I'm not supposed to call you by your former title of freeholders anymore because of the racist flag that raises. Therefore, I'm writing to you as a concerned citizen and voter to inquire about Essex County contract with ICE to detain immigrants at the county jail. Although the people formerly called freeholders passed a resolution last month calling for ICE to release people in detention, we know that the jail will be accepting dozens of people transferred from other facilities soon. How can you call for releases and then accept transfers? Bringing in people from other detention facilities is dangerous. We know it's almost impossible to keep the virus under control in jails. Transfers put everyone involved in the detention and system in jeopardy of getting sick. The only way to keep people safe is to keep them out of detention. Secondly, the people formerly called freeholders have repeatedly justified this contract by arguing that it benefits people in detention by keeping them close to the families. We know ICE transfers people out of Essex facilities far away, to facilities far away from the families whenever it chooses. If you believe that immigrants deserve to be close to their families, then you have a moral obligation to speak up against ICE action and freeze both new intakes and outward transfers from the duration of the pandemic, if not for all of the future. Ultimately, the only solution is ending the county's contract with ICE. Essex County has made more than $100 million over the last decade from the inhumane caging of immigrants. I'd like to know what your plan is to help immigrants instead of simply profiting from their detention. What are you doing to cut ICE contracts, stop transfers, and get people out of detention? The same comments and questions were submitted by Sasha Stahl, Sonia Maruka, and Melanie Silverstein. The next comment was submitted by Annie Chen. No address given. I'm calling to thank you for the resolution you sponsored this month calling on ICE to end all transfers out of state. I would also like to thank you for your effort to gather information from stakeholders on what is a responsible into the ICE contract and what to the ICE contract would look like. However, I'm deeply concerned that Essex County is resuming their acceptance of transfers from other facilities. As you may have heard, Elberon Development Group in Elizabeth announced this week its intention to end the work it does for ICE in leasing the Elizabeth Detention Center to Core Civic. Transfers from Elizabeth to Essex has been experienced as punishment in the past because conditions in the ECCF are so miserable. We are very concerned that the Essex County may see changes in Elizabeth as a chance to profit from transfers rather than to help commit ICE to releases. So we're calling on you to continue the good work you've been doing and ensure that Elizabeth detainees are released rather than transferred to Essex. It's fully within the power of Essex County to refuse the acceptance of transfers from ICE. It is also within the power of Essex County to refuse the admission of anyone who was taken into custody during the community enforcement activities. As you're aware, the pandemic is not over and the danger to people who are incarcerated is still very real. According to an article published in the Journal of American Medical Associations last week, people who are incarcerated are 5.5 times more likely to contract COVID and 3 times more likely to die from it. The scientific researchers recommended releasing those incarcerated and reducing unnecessary transfers in order to keep the jail population low. Will you commit to working with the Essex County administration and to continue to refuse to take any more people into the jail for ICE? Will you also commit to creating an open, public, transparent process to solicit input from stakeholders regarding a responsible end to the ICE contract? The Freeholder boards passed another resolution in support of Black Lives Matter. Show that you mean that all Black Lives Matter, including the Black lives in your jail. The next comment is from Camilla Marcone. No address given. Hello, my name is Camilla. I'm calling about Essex County contract with ICE to detain immigrants in the jail. Although the Freeholders passed a resolution last month calling for ICE to release people in detention, we know that the jail will be accepting dozens of people transferred from other facilities soon. How can you call for the releases and then accept transfers? Bringing in more people from other detention facilities is dangerous. We know, and empirical research has found that it's almost impossible to keep the virus under control in jails. Transfers put everyone involved in the detention and the system in jeopardy of getting sick. The only way to keep people safe is to keep them out of detention. I'm particularly concerned that Essex County freeholders might see the new developments in Elizabeth as a chance to grab revenue rather than fight for immigrants' rights. If you have heard, Elberon Development Corp in Elizabeth announced this week that its intention to end the work it does for ICE in leasing the Elizabeth Detention Center to Core Civic. Transfers from Elizabeth to Essex has been experienced as punishment in the past because conditions in the ECF are so miserable. It would be truly a crass, harmful thing to see Elizabeth detainees as dollar signs rather than people. It is imperative that you publicly call for the release and commit to not accepting transfers from Elizabeth to send ICE a sign that it makes releases. Ultimately, the only solution is ending the county's contract with ICE. Essex County has made more than $100 million over the last decade from inhumane caging of immigrants. I'd like to know what your plan is to help immigrants instead of simply profiting from their detention. What are you doing to cut the ICE contract, stop transfers, and get people out of detention? Thank you. The same comments and questions were submitted by Paige Mars. The next comment was submitted by Alex Zucker, no address given, to the freeholders of Essex County. I'm writing to thank you for your recent stand for immigrant rights in Essex County and also to ask you to do more. I'm deeply concerned that Essex County is resuming its acceptance of transfer from other facilities. I'm especially concerned because Elberon Development Corp in Elizabeth recently announced its intention to end its work it does for ICE in leasing the Elizabeth Detention Center to Core Civic. And while I'm thrilled they are finally doing the right thing, I know transfers from Elizabeth to Essex has been experienced this punishment in the past because the conditions in the ECCF are so miserable. I simply hope Essex County doesn't see the changes in Elizabeth as a chance to profit for transfers and will instead call on ICE to release people currently detained there. I know Essex County does not have the power to refuse it to accept transfers from ICE. I'm also urging the freeholders to exercise this power. People in detention are 5 times more likely to contract COVID and 3 times more likely to die from it. Accepting transfers from other facilities put even more lives at risk. Please, I'm calling on Essex County freeholders to, 1, refuse to take more people into the ECCF, and 2, commit to an open, public, transparent process regarding ending the ICE contract. Thank you for your time and attention. The same comments and questions were submitted by Emma Yora. And the final public comment is from David Blanchard of New Providence, New Jersey. All ICE detention should cease as soon as possible, and you must stop calling immigrant detainees criminals to help justify their detention. We need you out of the corrupt, death-dealing business of caging immigrants for county revenue, and we need to close all jails and prisons too. As a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, I demand more from you in the ICE contract now. Mr. President, that includes all the public comments for this segment of the public comment session of the agenda.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Madam Clerk. And as noted, if there are specific questions, they will be responded to in writing. Freeholder comment session. Freeholders, any comments? Again, just a couple of housekeeping items. We will meet remotely through the rest of the year. Our next meeting is not until September 9th. So wishing everyone a safe and healthy August and what's remaining of this summer. Any additional? Yes.
Yeah. Mr. President. So through you, Mr. President, thank you for this time to speak about 2 in memoriam accommodations. They are both dedicated to the life and accomplishments of 2 of my personal heroes, Reverend Cordy Tyndall C.T. Vivian and the Honorable John Lewis. Both civil rights leaders passed away on the same day. And coincidentally, their lives parallel. They both stood and fought for civil rights and were major players in historical events that have shaped the trajectory of the moral compass toward racism in our country. They both participated as freedom riders. They both were organizers of the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom alongside Dr. King, and both participated in a march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge called Bloody Sunday. They galvanized congressional support for the Voting Rights Act to prohibit racial discrimination in balloting. We all remember the merciless beating John Lewis took on the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma. John Lewis continued to fight for our causes in Congress, and Reverend Vivian continued efforts through community organizations. Each of them kept the fight until the end. They were trailblazers, and I stand on the shoulders as an African-American legislator. I am indebted to them as they literally put their lives on the line for the benefit of Black and brown people in this country. They endured prison, persecution, and physical abuse. So today I join their families and the entire country in mourning their loss, and more importantly, cherishing their accomplishments and victories. I vow to ensure that these accomplishments are not only recorded in history, but also taught in our curriculum as modern day heroes for years to come. This is our obligation and the least that we can do. So thank you again for the opportunity to speak, and thank each and every one of you for your support.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Well said. And both those resolutions, I think I'm glad to see we're doing by acclamation. So I think that's the way they should be done. So, and I know many of us had the opportunity actually to meet Congressman Lewis, as he was here in Newark many times, but here very recently, within the last couple of years. So just a tremendous loss. Tremendous loss. Friel, is there any additional questions or comments? Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. So moved.
Motion.